Supervisor Howard, will you lead us in prayer, please?
Sure. Would you bow your heads, please? This morning, our Heavenly Father, we come to thank you for all your blessings that you've given us. The Heavenly Father, we pray for your protection through this day. And the Heavenly Father, we pray for protection for our families and our homes. The Heavenly Father, we pray that you will give us wisdom to do the county business. And the Heavenly Father, we pray that you will protect our military soldiers that stand abroad for our freedom. The Heavenly Father, bless our first responders. And the Heavenly Father, bless our health care givers. The Heavenly Father, we pray that you will bless this county, bless this board. The Heavenly Father, we pray blessing upon the local, state, and the national officials. These and other blessings we ask in your Son Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Supervisor Howard. Next on the agenda is citizen comment period. If we have any citizens that would like to make a comment, please come forward. Seeing that we have none, seeing that we
Let me give you a little update on what the district is doing as far as installing the sewer. We're probably close to 95% complete with the underground sewer in University Estates. We're currently going down Highway 182 towards Hunter Ridge, where we're going to convert that lagoon to a pump station into public sewer. We're working on going up 16th Section Road. We'll go past the school. We're going to go down on West Point Road to Steel Plantation. Right now we're trying to get a path under that 16th section and West Point Road intersection. It's full of cables and water lines, so we're trying to get through there and not rip anything out. The other thing is in expanding the district or annexing the district, the board needs to pass a resolution. The provision in the law for potential petition was the time from the publication to the public hearing. And I brought a copy for Rob of what Jack did when the district was created in 2009 to give him a reference. And I can provide him some other things in a Word format so it won't have to be retyped.
I love that, thank you.
I'm glad that you have prepared that, and we pretty much go from there. Before we enter here and in a motion, we'd like to at this time review the July board minutes and see whether or not there need to be any adjustments made on that.
I make a motion that we approve the minutes as presented. Second.
Motion by Supervisor Howard, second by Supervisor Montgomery, that we approve the training. Yes. Trainer, motion by Supervisor Trainer, second by Supervisor Montgomery, that we approve the minutes. Are there any questions? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0.
Mr. President, I also make a motion we accept the recommendation coming from Mr. Priceock in regards to East Occidental wastewater situation.
Motion by Supervisor Trainer, second by Supervisor Howard. The motion, the recommendation coming from East Occidental Wastewater Management District. Are there any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0. Thank you, Mr. Priceock, for that presentation and providing that resolution there. And do we have any additional citizen comments? No additional citizen comments. We'd like to now move forward with a real property appraisal contract and the personal property appraisal contract. Mr. Allen Martin.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I got sent over last week a copy of the contract on real property and on personal property to Mr. Lewis. He should have a contract. So Mr. Conley, who's done appraisal here for a long, long time, he's not going to be able to do it anymore. And he's basically recommended these two people. The first one on real property is Wes Kite, an associate. He has assisted Mr. Conley here the last 5 years in doing in pricing some of the big apartment complexes, places like Academy Sports and all. He's been in the business his entire life doing this type of work. There's not really many of these people out there to start with that you can choose from.
It's sort of along the same lines. Fee-wise is Mr. Conley.
Oh, pardon?
Fee-wise is Mr. Conley.
Well, the price he put in this 1-year contract, we got real appraisal coming up. They're going to have to reprice everything in the whole county. I think the price on this contract is $240,000 for 1 year. And I look back, and I stand to be corrected, but I think what we paid Mr. Conley 4 years ago on the reappraisal was $230,500. And in addition to that, so there was an additional $38,000 we paid him to do the personal property tax. And we paid him a total of $268,500. The last update we had 4 years ago. So this contract, if I'm looking at it correctly, the lowest, they can correct me if I'm not right on this. I think it's about $9,500 more this time versus 4 years ago. Now we're just talking about real property. It's going to be two different companies now. And if you like, I can go in detail on the personal property too and give you a little background on that. You don't care about mixing it up. The last 2 years, Mr. Conley had the contract on CK&B had the contract on the personal too. But basically he subbed it out to statewide business appraisal. They've actually done the personal property the last 2 years. So they are familiar with Starkville and Octavia County as far as doing the personal property. And there again, Mr. Collins, health reasons, he's not going to be able to do it anymore. So it's going to be somebody new.
I see a lot of counties that they've been doing work.
On the real property, I think he's got about 6 counties. He's been doing it his entire life. He holds the MAE designation. That's the highest you can get in the state of Mississippi. John Lewis on the personal property, he's been doing it probably 40 years too. That's all they do for a living.
When you do these separate or together?
Separate.
All right, well, I'll make a motion to accept the contract on real property with Wes Kite and Associates.
Yes, sir.
Second.
Motion by Supervisor Montgomery, second by Supervisor Trainer, that we accept the contract on West Knight Associate. And it's $240,000. And do we have any questions? Additional questions, no additional questions, all in favor? Motion carries forward.
I'll make a motion to accept the contract on the 2022 personal property tax roll as well, with statewide.
Motion by Supervisor Montgomery, by statewide, second by Supervisor Trainer, and we accept the contract on statewide business appraisal. Are there any additional questions?
One thing on statewide, the price on statewide is $46,000. I don't know if I said that or not.
I saw that in there. I mean, like everything is going up a little bit.
Yes, that's correct.
Are there any additional questions? All in favor? Motion carries forward.
That's all I have.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
We have next on the agenda is mobile home refund, Barbara Cuban.
Good morning, sir.
So one refund to do. And two deletions on here.
We have a motion for a refund of Mr. Anthony. Mr. Anthony, a refund for, I think that's 2 months, right? 2 years.
2 years.
2 years.
I make a motion for approval.
Motion for approval by Supervisor Montgomery, second by Supervisor Howard. Refund, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 4. 2 deletions.
Make a motion for approval on the deletions as well.
Second.
Motion by Supervisor Montgomery, second by Supervisor Howard on 2 deletions. Are there additional questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 4.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Griffin.
Humane Society, Ms. Michelle Anderson. Ms. Anderson.
Hello there.
Good morning.
Good morning.
This is Martha Thomas. She is our outreach director and development director for the Humane Society. I just wanted to make sure that everyone has had a chance to read the second letter that we sent last week regarding the current funding situation with the Ottawa County Humane Society, and in regards to the services that we provide to the county. Since our president, Rip Welch, met with you all a few weeks ago, we sat down and we also have learned some new things based on funding sources, some of our granting agencies, and we are not going to be receiving the amount of grant funding that we have in the past. The Humane Society has operated the Starkville Animal Shelter on a deficit for the last decade, and the Humane Society, through grant funding and donations, has been able to cover that deficit. And so we are looking to the county to help us come up with a solution to continue to be able to serve the county residents. I believe that, and I believe you all believe that, we serve a very important role for the county in keeping the stray animals, taking care of them, and the neglected animals, which of course we have a good number of right now, that we're taking care of through court cases. And we're coming to you all to tell you that this year is the year that we no longer have the financial ability to continue to operate the Starkville Animal Shelter at the rate that we have in the past. And we welcome your questions, and any feedback, any suggestions that you all have. We are at a critical point now to where we need the funding, or we will not be able to provide the services that we have been providing.
Well, we certainly thank you for your service. We have stray cats and stray dogs that need to that need to be rescued. So thank you for your service. Thank you for what you do. And, I believe the board will consider your request. It is a pretty large jump, however, from where it is now to where you want it to be. Or do you think you might be able to make it for anything less than that?
So each year we come to you all with a request, and our request has basically been the same in terms of the amount of funding that we ask for every year for the last, as long as I can remember, 5 or 6 years. And the county, you all have worked with us and said that you will continue to try to work with us to increase that allotment. But the allotment has gone up from 10 years ago we were getting $5,000 to now we're getting $35,000. That is less than 10% of the operating budget for the Starkville Animal Shelter. I understand, we all understand that it is a significant jump. However,
It's needed.
it is needed, and our costs have been this way, and fortunately, OCHS has had the ability to cover this deficit for so many years because of the grant funding. And we are continuing to work very hard with our sponsors, with the ASPCA, with the Humane Society of the United States, with PetSmart Charities and Petco to continue to bring in that funding. But right now, and you all know, COVID has hit everyone hard, and so we are in a position where we need to be fully funded in order to be able to continue to provide the care for the animals and the support to the community. With that said, we would love an opportunity to sit down with you guys and come up with a solution. If $185,000 is too large of a leap, we would like to discuss with you all soon an option or some alternatives for some things that might be help us continue to provide the service while you all work on figuring out how to fund this.
I see it says here decreased grant funding.
Yes.
Kind of expand a little
So
bit on that.
we have the OCHS, the Humane Society, has kind of three discrete programming areas. The first is that we manage the Starkville and Oktibbeha County, the shelter for Starkville and Oktibbeha County animals. The second one is that we run an animal relocation program. We have transported, I believe, I think it's over 12,000 animals in the last 10 years out of Oktibbeha County and the surrounding areas. That is huge given the fact that our live release rate 10 years ago was at 50%. We were euthanizing 50% of the animals that came into our shelter. We are now at a live release rate of over 95%. The animals that come into our shelter, and that's a great thing for the state of Mississippi. There are given the fact that we have surrounding counties that have no animal control officers, no help for their animals. The fact that OCHS, that we can say that Oktibbeha County has a program, has a support system in place to help these animals move out and to give them a second chance, and also to support the animals that are neglected or come in a situation that are strays or someone who falls on hard times is able to use us as a resource. Animal relocation has basically done this. In the short term, it has provided a very quick way to move animals out of Oktibbeha County where we just simply do not have enough people to adopt the number of animals coming in. The funds from that transport program have been able to help offset the cost for our shelter costs. They help pay for some of our staffing. It helps pay for medical supplies. And so it's been a huge part of how we've been able to continue to fund the Starkville Animal Shelter operational expenses. The third component is our low-cost spay and neuter program. Again, that is primarily grant funded. We do charge a small fee, and this is for residents of Oktibbeha County and surrounding counties who are lower income to pay a very small fee to come in and have their animals altered. This is a huge, huge opportunity to be able to reduce the number of animals that are stray animals that are running around in our community. The grants that come from that also help offset the costs, operational costs as well. With those grants going away, we're trying to be creative in terms of ways that we can bring in income. And so we're working on the two programs, the transport program and the spay and neuter program, to try to come up with ways to not only make those self-sufficient on their own, but to also continue to contribute to to what's going on in the animal shelter. And so that's what's happened this year, is that we're not getting those $150,000, $250,000 grants anymore that we've been able to utilize over the last decade. Those are just simply not there anymore
because of COVID. So.
Part of it's because of COVID. Part of it's because, things are changing, funding priorities are changing. But a lot of it has to do with COVID. A lot of it has to do with, disaster response. When we've got PetSmart Charities is, they're worried about things. In addition to transport, other issues, community animal welfare issues have come up, and they're spread thin in terms of what they can support, and so everyone realizes that this is animal welfare is an ever evolving issue, and you never know what's going to happen. But the thing that has really hit home with us, even with COVID, is that, and I know you guys will see that, or you saw that in the original presentation that Rick did, was that we've struggled for the last several years in terms of bringing in funding, and COVID we took a big hit with COVID, and so we held our animals longer. We couldn't move them out as quickly, and so it was a big issue. But we want to sit down with you guys, and we welcome an opportunity over the next couple of weeks. We know that you all have a budget meeting in the next couple of weeks. We would love to sit down, talk with you, and come up with some solutions on how we can make this work, because our other alternative is that we stop intaking from the county, and that, in my personal opinion, would be a disaster. We feel like there's so much need out there, and there's so much yet to be done. Our goal is to get our county to where we have a manageable number through spay and neuter, to where we don't have all these unwanted animals. But in the short term, while we do have all these animals coming in, we want to be able to provide the services and the care for them, and make sure that the community knows that we're a great organization, a great resource for them.
A little bit on and I think programs like Homeward Bound, things like that. My wife works at the vet school.
Okay.
And would you say some of your costs are incurred because you're having to hold that pet or the animal longer?
Oh, absolutely.
Is there a way, and I'm asking,
Yeah.
I'm asking this question, is there a way to find different programs, Homeward Bound, different programs to save the pet, the animal, but to streamline it to where you can get them out a little
faster?
quicker? Because I'm in my head, I'm just thinking that may be, the good is that we're saving more animals. The
Yep.
bad is it costs a little more to hold the animal.
So I will tell you that our average stay so far in 2021, I believe, was 18 days. For an animal that goes on transport, it's less than 2 weeks. For an animal, and that's including the vetting, getting to know their personalities, and getting them out on transport.
Getting them well.
Getting them well. The average for an animal that is not able to go on transport is 30 days plus. Now, we've taken from the county itself, we've taken over 24 animals just in the last 7 months that were either court cases that we had to hang on to for several months, and unless we can get those through the courts quicker, we're stuck with them. And that's an issue with us.
I was going to say, with that, be it the responsible party, be it abuse, be it neglect, be it what have you, is there a way to offset your costs through the court system? And that may be a question for our attorney. I'm trying to help.
Yes,
you,
absolutely.
At the same time,
We're
not immune to COVID when I say we as a county.
Yeah.
So we want to help, but it's what we can do as well.
So we have so as I stated before, we have an over 95% love release rate. What that means is that over 95% of the animals that come into our shelter from the county and the city have a positive outcome. They either are adopted or they go on transport. The majority of them are actually go on transport. For us, trying to reduce the time a little bit, an average of 2 weeks is not a long time. a lot of the cost comes from caring for the animals that are with us over periods of time, and these sick animals that come in that have medical issues, that are court cases. And so, yes, so one of the issues is that, we'll continue to work to try to get the animals out on relocation quicker than we possibly can. Part of that has to do with making sure that our community is healthier, making sure that our animals are healthier. We get a lot of animals in that come in with mange, demodeck mange, sarcoptic mange, that have intestinal parasites, that come in that have ringworm, you name it, that need surgery because they've been hit by a car. These are things that OCHS, we want to continue to be a resource for the county. We have what's called a Community Second Chance Fund that we, OCHS, funds and raises money for, where we help community members treat their animals. If they have a catastrophic medical issue, we also treat the animals that come in. So we are always looking for ways. We believe that the way to reduce that amount of time that we're holding them is to get out there in the community and be proactive with community members and let them know that we're here to help them before it gets to a situation where we're having to spend, a lot of money and a lot of time trying to get an animal well. And so providing those services to the community is vital, but we need the Starkville Animal Shelter. We need that resource to be able to hold those animals and do the things that we can do. So we would like to partner with you guys to continue to come up with some solutions to continue to reduce that time that we hold these animals. Because I can tell you right now, the cost to hold an animal for 2 weeks, to vet a healthy animal for 2 weeks and get them out the door, versus the cost to hold an animal for over 30 days that has some sort of medical issue, there is a huge difference. And so it's a multi-pronged effort that is going to take our efforts, but also participation by you all and support from you all to kind of make it happen. First and foremost, though, the most critical pressing issue for us right now is funding. We simply do not have the funding, and will not here in the next couple of months, to continue to do what we're doing. And so we have to come up with a solution. It is urgent. And so we would love to talk with you all more about that and come up with some solutions on how we can fix this and move forward.
Thank you all for what you do. I definitely agree that the service you offer is critical to our county. I can't imagine if you all were not there. So I'm up for meeting and trying to come up with any solution we can to help down there, because I think that's a service that we need to keep here.
Appreciate it. You all have my cell phone number. Give me a call.
We've been calling back and forth.
We have been. And we are available anytime over the next few weeks if you all would like to discuss this in more detail. Thank you all.
Thank you.
I appreciate you coming. If someone wanted to donate money,
Yes.
kind of explain while you're here on the stage how that you could do that.
Well,
OCHSMS.org/donate is an easy way to donate online. That's OCHSMS.org/donate. Of course, also dropping things off at the shelter is great too. We're at 510 Industrial Park Road.
So if someone has food, they can bring
Yes.
some dog food, cat food.
We welcome it.
we also want to let you all know that we have a lot of community members that come in very often who are looking for. I just had a gentleman come in the shelter yesterday. We weren't open. He said, "I don't get paid until Tuesday. Do y'all have some dog food that you can give us?" And of course, we give away donated dog and cat food to people who need it. So this is not an uncommon thing. This is something we do on a regular basis. You can follow our Facebook page. We're on Twitter, Instagram, and we post our needs often. But we also welcome the opportunity. We're open back up to volunteers. We'd love for you to come by and see what we're doing. And I will tell you that we do have the ASPCA and the Time Magazine reporter are coming in tomorrow, and they'll be with us for the next couple of days. And they are doing a story on OCHS and animal relocation and how animal relocation has impacted in southern shelters like OCHS. And so
We will be in a feature story here in the next month or two with Time Magazine, and we're super proud about being able to show these folks around Starkville and Ottawa County and our shelters. Thank you all.
Thank you all for coming to you. Have a great day.
Motion to acknowledge.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Supervisor Trainer, second by Supervisor Howard, to acknowledge the report coming from the Humane Society. All in favor? Motion carries forward. Next on the agenda is Starkville Area Council update, Mr. John Baker.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Supervisor Williams. Thank you. I'm going to make a couple of introductions too. I'm John Bateman, Executive Director of the Starkville Area Arts Council, and this is our annual update that we give to the county. Thank you so much for the funding that you've given us. We've submitted another request, but we've not increased that request. I wanted to make a couple of introductions. So with me is Juliette Reed. She's a Mississippi State University graduate. She's been our AmeriCorps Vista member for almost 2 years now, and then pending the outcome of our cookbook fundraiser, we'll bring her on as a program coordinator later this fall when her Vista term ends, which has been critical to helping us with communications, grant writing, me not waking up at 3 in the morning because I'd forgotten something. So I want to make sure I introduce Juliette. And part of that is because if you haven't seen the news, this is I'm ending my term. I'm the outgoing executive director. I'm going back to grad school to get my Master of Fine Arts in Chicago. And so this is a transition period for us, and I wanted to make sure the county met at least one member from the Arts Council in person. We just elected our new board officers. Those are, our current president is now Asha Gandhi, ceramics teacher at the Starkville High School. Dr. Christine Rogers is our vice president. She's a research chemist out on campus. Nancy Leifer with Renaissance is our treasurer. Emily Camp, former city planner, who's now property manager, is our secretary. And Dr. Jenna Altamonte is our officer at large. She is a MSU art professor on campus and who has been heavily involved in our collaborative public art programs that we've done here in the past couple of years. I did want to share some good news with us. We just ended our fiscal year in the black, $18,000 with net revenue. This is in part thanks to stimulus funding, which was key, but also the last 2 years we've been running an annual campaign, much like the MSU Foundation does, and so that has made a change in our funding, which has been very helpful these last 2 years, especially because of the pandemic. Had we been able to host our 2 key fundraisers, we would have just ended one of our best fiscal years in several years. And so this has been a wonderful year for us, and it does help set us up for our programs for this next year. So most of that net revenue is restricted funds, which means that we have specific purposes that we have to spend that on. This last year, our art education and outreach included an art box drive in Mabon. This was tremendously successful, and it's something that we plan to repeat again. We realize that there are other pockets in the county that are underserved, and so we hope to find those and add those as we have the bandwidth. That was a collective effort where we coordinated our outreach, giving away books and supplies, with other organizations who have their own outreach. And that way the goal was to reach a community as wide as possible and collaborate resources. Our Art Partners program is an after-school program where we provide a free teaching artist and supplies to 4 locations. Right now they are, the 4 locations we are working with are the J.L. King Center, the Pecan Acres after-school program. We are building a program with COCO, Council of Community Organizations, and then Summit Extended Day, which is the after-school program with the public schools. Our other emphasis is under the creative economy. That includes the Cotton District Arts Festival, but we also host business skill workshops. This year we engaged in a collaborative effort with the Arts Council in Oxford and a couple of other arts organizations to host free business workshops for creatives on topics from sales taxes to writing grant applications to business plans. And that is a long-term effort. It has caught the attention of the Small Business Administration. who may help fund that through another organization. And so we're really excited about that. With the simple goal of keeping creatives here, because it is cultural growth creates economic impact. Whatever we do to keep people here, to keep them interested in Starkville, creates an economic impact. Because if they don't want to live here, if they don't want to visit here, they will move somewhere else. And I've seen this happen with the small town where my family's from. Over 4 decades, it has just slowly withered, where now the employers are leaving because people are working elsewhere. And so that's an extreme example of what happens when there's nothing to do in a town, but that's the basis of our creative economy efforts. Cotton District Arts Festival is set for October the 2nd. We're really excited about a fall date. That is an off-game weekend. I would not get volunteers if we tried to do that on a football game weekend, much less I can't imagine the city approving planning for that. But that date is set. We're excited about it, and we're hopeful that we'll have a successful return to the Cotton District. One of the key things about our programs is the visibility. We want folks to understand that Starkville is an arts town, is a cultural town, because of the impact it has on tourism and business. And so a lot of our programs have been designed for that. A lot of the feedback on our public art, most of it has been positive. The negative feedback we've gotten tends to be around basically things that people don't like. But I encourage the Board of Supervisors to keep in mind that we have to look at this through a business lens. And if you go Google best art towns in whatever geographic area you're interested in, the first images and the first stories that always pop up are public art. It is unfair to the fact that we have a lot of other cultural resources, but that's the calling card to signal to folks who are interested in moving here that there is an arts town here. And we have a ragtime festival, we have a film festival, we have a symphony. Everything they do is free. We have a highly active public library. There's a lot going on here. And so part of our effort has been what visibility can we create to get people interested in Starkville. As far as the search for my replacement, I am involved in that. We've conducted a nationwide search. We are actively interviewing candidates. It will be open until filled. We've done a statewide effort as well. And so if you have any questions, that's why I'm here. This will be my last appearance to you in this capacity, but I do want to take your questions, and we'll keep you updated as things go along.
Well, you have certainly been creative. I guess that's the reason why you're not requesting additional funding, and funding will stay the same. You certainly have been creative, and I'm just wondering, will you provide any type of assistance to the new applicant that will be coming in? The new person that's taking
Who takes your
place? Oh, who takes my place? Well, this is one reason why Juliet is so important to us, because she's been highly involved in the grant writing. I will be involved. I've committed to the board to provide a certain number of hours over the next 8 weeks to do whatever assistance is needed to help with the transition. I'm working closely with the board officers as well. And so the goal is that they're not just out cold and starting fresh. And we did not increase our request. We're sensitive to the fact that the county faces the same sort of struggles that we do, and we don't want to jeopardize the relationship that we have with you guys. And when we ask for more, it's with concerted thought and effort and the programs to help show that.
So when will you come on permanently?
Hopefully, starting around October, November.
She's in the office with us now as the Vista, so she's already with us. But that term ends.
She know all the day-to-day activities
and I've given my board a monthly report since I've been here that runs 5 and 7 pages, and so there's a lot of institutional memory there. But I am sensitive. That's why I'm involved in the search as well, because I want to make sure that we find the right candidate.
What role would Ashley Gannon play?
So she's the board president, and the board president is responsible for leading the board meetings, helping set policy and oversight and board engagement, along with the executive director. The executive director reports to our board president. And Ashley has been very involved in our various outreach efforts. So that includes some of the Art in the Park efforts, Art Boxes, the pumpkin painting booth that we do at Pumpkin Palooza. We took our mural wall to Starkville Community Day, but my understanding is that might not continue because the organizer has passed away. So we're not sure if that's but if something like that does take its place, then some of our other outreaches are taking our mural wall there, which is that's the wall at Art in the Park where kids can go up and paint, and usually looks like a purple blob by the end of the day. But
we certainly appreciate the service. You really made a great impact here in our Activity Hall. We wish you well on your future endeavor.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I do plan to be back at some point, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Baggins.
So moved. We acknowledge the report. Sorry, Council.
Supervisor Trainer, second by Supervisor McCollum. Any additional questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0. Sally K. Reynolds, Family Service Update. Ms. Brain.
Good morning. How are you? I'm Brandon. I'm Sheila Moran. I'm the Director of Sally K. Reynolds Family Services in West Point. This is Natalie White. She's our Clinical Program Coordinator there. I do have some packets of information to leave with you guys to look at. I know that we've already submitted a request for financial support from the Board of Supervisors. And really this update is really twofold. Naturally, we are requesting funds from Octavie Hall County Board of Supervisors. We submit a request each year based on the services that are being provided for Octavie Hall County clients. Our program has been in existence since 1990 as an emergency shelter for abused and neglected children. We also added runaway and homeless youth services in 2007 and Children's Advocacy Center services in 2014. So we do serve residential services for kids who are identified as homeless or runaway within Octavie County and Starkville area. We also work with kids who are in child protection services representing Octavie Hall County. That's within our residential services program. Our Children's Advocacy Center works with all felony child abuse cases in this community. We work with law enforcement and CPS. Those families and children come over to our center for a forensic interview, so do law enforcement and child protection services. That interview is video recorded so that the child does not have to be re-traumatized every time they share the details of the child abuse that they have experienced. We serve 5 county area with our Children's Advocacy Center, with Octavie Hall being our second largest number of clients served. Again, we've requested funding from Octavie County Board of Supervisors each year for many, many years and have failed to receive any type of financial support from this group. We do receive financial support from Clay County, naturally, that's our home county, Webster, Winston, and Noxubee counties, which we serve very few kids in comparison to Octavie Hall County and Lowndes County. So we are really making a push to you guys to consider some type of financial support. We are serving in our Children's Advocacy Center program alone, we served 56 kids in 2019, representing felony child abuse cases in this community. It was around 40 cases last year, and we're already half of that in 2021. So that's our first push. We also provide residential services for Octavie Hall County clients as well. Our second push is as a state organization of Children's Advocacy Centers, we have gone to the Mississippi House of Representatives and spoke with the speaker about looking at our state assessment allocation for the Children's Advocacy Center services. we are working with him on that, and in the process, he suggested that we reach out to each Board of Supervisors and request consideration for the recovery funds allocated to each county in the interim of that. So some of the documentation that I've provided is information provided to us on those recovery funds and how our agency falls within the eligibility requirements of being eligible to apply for funds when you guys determine how you're going, what that process is going to look like for the county. So we would just like, that consideration as well. We know in 2020 as a state, we saw more child abuse and neglect felony cases as a whole. And so as kids were in lockdown, a lot of times in very violent environments, the physical abuse cases really have increased considerably. And we've seen that across the state, and we've definitely seen that from a local standpoint. So when you guys start looking at the use of those recovery funds and how that process is going to look, we would like to receive information on how to apply for those funds as well. But in the interim, you can see on our service provided, we have relied heavily on United Way dollars from Oktibbeha County to offset the support for services for this county. And in 2017, we were receiving around $10,000 from United Way. We received $800 in 2020. That is a dramatic difference for us. We have to show local support in order for us to draw down federal and state dollars. And if we don't have that local support, then we can't match the federal and state grants that we're eligible for. And so that's kind of where we sit as an agency. And we are really trying to just increase awareness and financial support from those counties who are receiving the bulk of services from our agency for kids violated by child abuse and neglect.
So, you're telling me the United Way gave 10,000 years back, now they're only giving 800?
So in 2020, we received a check for $860. We have not received an allocation amount for 2021 yet, so we have not received any funds from them.
Is there a reason? I'm asking.
I have reached out to the new executive director and have not been able to get a response. So I'm not sure of the reason. I know, excuse me, in 2020, the campaign during COVID was very difficult, and so a lot of the pledges did not come through because of people unemployed and the payroll deductions not happening.
So let me ask, I won't say a tough question, but in 2015, there were 2,228 cases. There's over 12,000 cases this year.
And that represents the state, yes. And again, these are felony child abuse cases. So there's many more reports of child abuse and neglect that maybe meet misdemeanor, but we have a certain set of criteria that make those eligible, identified as felony child abuse. And those are the cases that the Children's Advocacy Center works with.
Is there, from your, I'm asking, this is alarming how this is, this graph, if you look at it in any kind of a trend, is there a specific, what would be the reason for this being in 2015, 2,200, and this being, even in 2020, it's 8,000, you may as well say, and you've added 4,000 in a year.
So part of this is growth in children's advocacy centers across the state. So prior to 2014, when we opened a local CAC in West Point, serving Clay Lowndes, Oktibbeha counties, we picked up Choctaw and Noxubee. But prior to that, felony child abuse cases from this county had to be transported to Jackson for services. So a lot of times, those kids would not make it for those services. Excuse me, or law enforcement couldn't go to Jackson because of limited resources for law enforcement. So those cases were not actually being seen through a Children's Advocacy Center. Over time, throughout the state, and our goal is to have every child traumatized by child abuse, by felony child abuse, to have access to a local Children's Advocacy Center. That's really the goal. So right now we have 12 children's advocacy centers. 2016, I would say maybe there were 9. So we've slowly increased the number of children's advocacy centers located across the state, which is offering localized services, localized training for law enforcement and child protection services regarding investigating child abuse and neglect cases. And then on top of the forensic interviewing, providing free mental health services for that child so that they can deal with that immediate traumatic effect of child abuse, whether they're removed from their home or placed with a relative or have a parent or close relative that's going to be incarcerated because of that abuse. That is a lot for a little kid to deal with, and so they need more than just court prep. They need some mental health services in order for them to manage all of the emotions that they're having and become a stable, sustainable adult at some point, regardless of the physical or sexual abuse that they experienced as a child. So increased in the number of availability of services, more access to services, as well as additional services.
What age range children do you work with?
So in our shelter and transitional living program, our shelter is 0 to 17. Our transitional living program works with runaway and homeless youth ages 16 to 21. And then our children's advocacy center program works with children ages 3 to 17. We do work with both like the police and Oktibbeha County Sheriff's Department. They come over to, if we do a forensic interview, law enforcement and CPS are supposed to be present for that interview. So we are asking questions that they need information in order to complete their investigation. So those kids are not just coming solo to us. We're collectively working with professional disciplines from representing Oktibbeha County who will be serving, and investigating those cases with hopes of increased court appearances, increased prosecution of these child abuse cases, and we're seeing that. We work very closely with the district attorney's office and have those representatives part of the process. So it's definitely not a solo process. It is a collective group trying to combat child abuse in our local communities and ensuring safety for all kids who live here. And that's truly what they deserve.
Question, and I'm looking at this is on the second page that you gave. The Victims of Crime Act, the funding reduction and the impact of it there on the bottom of the second page, if I'm looking at this right. So you mean in 2018, 30 million was given. In 2020, only 15 million. So your funding or your non-taxpayer, so this is donated money?
The VOCA grant, the Victims of Crime Act funding, is a national allocation that is a fee assigned to felony crimes. And so for years, our agency has received a VOCA grant since we opened in 1990. That amount of funding has changed considerably. And at one point, they released a lot of funding through the VOCA grant. And so now the grant, the VOCA funds, is in jeopardy of going away completely. And I know just a couple of weeks ago, Congress in D.C. passed legislation to rebuild the funds. So, but at one point, it was very concerning that that pot of money was going to go away completely.
And where is that pot of money? It's a national.
That is a national.
Federal.
Each state receives a particular allocation, and the Department of Health manages the Mississippi allocation. I know this year there were 62 different programs that received money through the VOCA grant administered through the Department of Health.
So it's just, there's more programs, so you're getting a smaller slice of the pie.
Right.
Hence,
right.
It's falling on to the local
And so that pool of money supports child abuse victims, domestic violence victims, any victim of crime. So it could be, they support MAD, homicide. A lot of different law enforcement agencies get a small grant to help with victims of crime. And so that money is not just set aside for child abuse victims. It's for, the whole host of victims that could be represented in the state of Mississippi. And we're not sure what our grant for the fiscal year 2020 is going to look like. We have submitted an application, but we're not sure how much of a decrease that's actually going to be based on the total decrease received by the state.
So what's your, for your unit in Westport, what's your budget, your total budget?
So for our 4 programs, our total budget is $1.5 million. Our residential programs provide 24-hour care, 365 days a year. So we never closed. We never closed during COVID and had children and youth in our programs throughout that time. As a whole, we employ 26 individuals.
And I know you said something about 24% of the total client served in 2020 were occupied, and that's with all the total programs.
That's all total programs.
And but you can't assess a figure for this person based on
the cost,
dollar value of services.
Yes, and that was provided to the board, I think, in June. And that is, I don't have copies of that, but I did break that down.
Would you like a chair?
It's this sheet. I don't know if you all got a copy of that earlier, but that is broken down, the cost for emergency shelter and runaway and homeless youth services, our children's advocacy center cost, and our transitional living cost. I'm kind of looking at it over a 5-year period. And we estimate that the the forensic interview is around a cost of $500 per interview. Other centers across the state calculate that a little different. So some, calculate out at $975 per interview, some around $1,200 per interview. We estimate that at $500 per interview. And then, of course, any of our residential programs, that cost is $150 per night per unit of service. And that's really based on the 24-hour care that we're required to provide. For licensure, we have to have 2 people on duty at all times and 2 people awake at all times. So our personnel line item is a huge part of our budget in order for us to meet that requirement to operate.
We certainly appreciate the service you all render.
Thank you.
Thank you. Natalie and I attend the same church, but I wasn't aware that this is what you do, so I'm sure I'll be asking you for more information even after our budget meetings.
Great. Any consideration, we would really
You
appreciate it.
provide a great service.
Thank you all for what you do.
MSU Extension Service Center. Fran Brock.
Good morning.
Good morning. How you doing?
I'm good. I don't know if y'all know, but as of June 30th, Latrell Stokes retired from the extension after 25 years. So I'm coming on behalf of Dr. Jane Parrish to ask for your support in opening and funding the new 4-H agent position here in Ottawa County. They're asking for $16,000 plus funds for Social Security, retirement, fringe benefit, basically what you already do now, but we just need your permission to open the position up. So, here to do that.
We're already funded.
You're already funding it.
I move we grant the request to officially open the position.
Okay. And
Motion by Supervisor Howard, second by Supervisor Montgomery, that we grant that request.
okay.
Are there any additional questions?
So if y'all know anybody that want to be a 4-H agent, got an ag degree, someone and something applies. Be open real soon.
I have a question. What exactly is what was the request? I'm sorry, I was busy writing.
To open.
Never mind. Thank you.
So I would just, I think everybody has a copy of this, so I would just need it signed and pick it up from you later. Thank you, Ms. Dodo. You're welcome.
Supervisor Williams, carry the vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
That was quick.
Hey, I gotta ask, is Supervisor Miller, if she's on there, is she by Zoom or she just, I mean, not including her in the vote?
She can't respond to that, because we're not on Zoom, we're just on YouTube. She can watch it live. Okay. And you can, I guess, do it and see her comments if you put some comment in.
I just didn't know if she were.
morning that she wouldn't be here, but she didn't say.
How many people watching?
We got 2 people watching.
So, hey, it's a 50-50 chance. Oh, you don't know.
It's one of my mother.
She's proud of you, brother.
We need to, can I get a motion to acknowledge the Saturday Winners Family Service update? Motion by Supervisor Montgomery, second by Supervisor Howard. Are there questions about that? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0.
Thank you.
I'm back to making it.
Major design presentation, Ryan Ashton.
And Major Andrew.
And Major Andrew, I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. Major Andrew. You guys work as a team. You make a great team too, let me say. Great team you got. Right off.
Are we ready? All right. Well, we'd like to say good morning to everyone. And basically we wanted to give you the final report for the building assessment or the facility study. And I think the first part of it, you've pretty much seen about the firm and all of that, where some of the things that you haven't seen is what's presented here. We've actually been able to go through and look at the for as maintenance under findings. As far as maintenance, we basically found out that there's really not a budget for all of the buildings. There may be probably some purchase orders that may have been kind of utilized for maintenance, but there's not an overall budget that for maintenance that you guys have kind of been using. As far as the utility cost, your electric cost for your buildings roughly is about $58,000. Gas has been about $2,300. Under the insurance cost for your buildings, you're roughly around $39,000 for your insurance. As part of the assessment, some of the things that we went through and looked at, some of the building components, we pretty much looked at the structure. We looked at kind of how old the roofs are, some of the roof exterior materials in terms of bricks and some of your finishes. In addition to that, we looked at windows, doors, in canopies, mechanical. We looked at those systems, some of your plumbing.
toilets, ADA. On the electrical, we looked at your power, emergency power, lighting controls, voice data, and then on the interior, we started to look at some of your ceilings, walls, doors, floors. Under code, we looked at how the building met the code in terms of fire, ADA, elevator, exits. And then we looked at some of your site issues in terms of what was going on with some of your, how things were set up in terms of like your landscaping, parking, site ADA, circulation, and drainage. Some of our recommendations for you under the main courthouse here, we felt that the staff could actually stay in place, but there would need to be some upgrades. And those upgrades would include mechanical and electrical upgrades. Also, there are miscellaneous upgrades which are needed in terms of some of your walls, floors, ceilings. Those kinds of things need to be addressed as well. The investigators, there are some issues over there with their building. We actually had met with them and they talked about having mold issues, a lot of water in the building, those kinds of things that really need to be addressed as well. They also mentioned with the sheriff's department, we felt that that would pretty much stay in place. However, we may have to look at seeing if there are some ways to maybe pick up some additional offices, is kind of what we have been told because of the active sheriffs or the deputies that you have on patrol, that there's a large number compared to that building when it was originally built. It didn't have as many offices, I think, in that space. I think there's maybe like 3 offices, and I think now you have something like maybe 24 sheriffs, so you don't have enough office space for everyone. In addition to that, the emergency E911 building, the staff there could remain in place. Some of the things that we did talk with them about, Ms. Capanelli, was the roof. There have been roof leaks. The lighting needs to be replaced in terms of there are some can lights and stuff that needs to be addressed, and that's in your main boardroom there as well, or in your command center. And then she mentioned that a shower is needed for people that may come in. I think she said during the COVID, there were some people that stayed overnight and there was not any shower facilities for them. And then she mentioned that their storage would be needed. She said that they have the emergency generators, and then they have some vehicles that they basically need to kind of have a place to store those. In addition to all of your PPE and all of that, she talked about needing a place to store those. She said right now they're actually paying for a storage facility, but there's a potential need for that as well. Under the circuit court, talk with them. Of course, we're looking at them possibly staying in place. I put the question mark out beside it because of the discussion item that we will need to have with the board. They actually need another judge chamber. They have 3 judges. They only have 2 judge chambers. The jury rooms are too small. The sheriff and the DA areas are small. And then it was mentioned that when the 2020 consensus comes out, that there will possibly be a need for a county judge, which means you would have to add additional additional courtroom, as well as the jury room and all of those things as well. So just wanted to kind of bring that to your attention. Under the new building, some of the other spaces that we did kind of go through would all fall under that, which would be possibly the county administration offices, the supervisor's office, which you don't have one at this time, MSU extension office, the justice court, the youth court, and then DHS and CPS would all kind of fall under the new building. They basically incorporated into the new building. Are there any questions so far?
As far as a county judge in the courtroom in the circuit court, I mean, we couldn't use an existing courtroom, I'm asking.
If there comes a county court, they'll take over youth court too. So you need to take that into consideration.
So would the county court and youth court would become one entity?
Mm-hmm.
And youth court now they're
Here. Us. And the Chancery Court will lose youth court if we get a county court.
Would we need to add another courtroom? Because it would be going on while other courts were going on.
Because county court will be handling other stuff like justice and the city does. It will all be combined into one for a county court.
As far as the size of the court room, are you going to need something like this main courtroom or that side one over there?
I won't need it.
Well, I'm saying that. I mean, how much? How busy was that?
It's going to be busy.
Be a busy court because you're combining the two.
If you could take what you have currently and do it again, in other words, a small courtroom and a larger courtroom, I think that would suffice. Is that fair?
Yeah.
I didn't mean that.
No problem.
Could that position be housed in another building other than the circuit court?
Yes, sir.
So it could be housed in a new complex.
Yeah, because that was the question as to where they would have to be. So they could be, like he's saying, they could be in a separate building.
Because it's going to take a load off the circuit, it'll take a load off the justice, and it'll take a load off of our youth court.
Any other questions? Anybody else so far?
Here's a thought, and this is just a thought to put on here, where the sheriff department currently sits. And I'm not trying to I'm not trying to take your part. But if the sheriff department has outgrown their space, that's still space available that could be used for what we're talking about. Now, I'm not suggesting that's what y'all would decide to do, but that is a possibility that it's still space available. Now, the sheriff may not want to move, and he may think that that's not a great idea. However, in the grand scheme of things, that might would work simply because the justice court, the county court, the youth court, they're still going to need facilities to house people. I mean that would be a thought process. So I didn't mean to completely gum this up too much, but I mean it is space that we currently have that could be considered in the big picture. Now, if you do that, the sheriff's department is going to have a bigger spot or a different spot. So I'm not necessarily fixing the reality of building another building. I'm just saying that is space available.
They would need a different spot and not with the new building that's being constructed.
Yes, sir. I'm creating probably more problems than you intended to.
So, question, your utilities that you found over here, and I'm always trying to find some savings in the main courthouse. This can't be annual. This has got to be monthly, correct?
That's what I was going to ask. Is that a monthly? Surely that's not annual.
The information that we received, I think it was an average. I think that was an average.
Average monthly?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah,
because
that was an average.
Which was going to lead me into my next question, or avert from that question, would be if those, and down at the bottom, right at 59,000 a month, in electricity, I would imagine, then you got your gas. I guess you could see some tremendous savings in a more efficient building. Maybe 30-40% if you had to take a stab at it. which would be 600,000, 700,000. If you say 30% of that, to be a couple hundred, maybe $250,000 a year. We could save in energy costs.
Yeah, because you could almost look at the circuit court administration building where it's 1,500 compared to the main courthouse is 27 or 20, roughly 28. So it's a lot. It's like a $1,200 more for that. So yeah.
Yes, the good thing is with very early in this process, so these are some things that you all are bringing to our attention that we're going to need to have to try to work through going forward, space-wise, and like Supervisor Montgomery said, what are the savings, you know, what are the benefits of having a new, more efficient building, things of that nature. So, yeah, this is good information.
And even if we built a new building, though, I would imagine, we're not going to tear our existing courthouse down.
No.
We would just add on to it, so there really wouldn't be any savings. It would just be.
Well, we gain some savings doing your upgrades to mechanical and electric, gets more efficient.
Yeah, you haven't really dug into that. Do you see with the utilities that we're using now, and I guess electric would be your main focus because the gas is pretty minimal. Do you see opportunities there? LEDs, things of that nature, leaks, air draftiness, you know what I'm saying? Going through those systems, the juice would be worth the squeeze, in your opinion.
Yes, not only to help the occupants of the spaces as well.
Right, yeah.
Because, having that more control. Yeah.
Because we do have an older, almost archaic system here. We got boilers and chillers, and it's,
With the new building, you can, first of all, more energy efficient. Then it's designed to be more work efficient, for the employee to be able, and the maintenance is not in here, right?
Correct.
So if you think what we're spending for the upkeep and maintenance of these older buildings, then you start to see, get a better picture of what we're doing here in the county. So if we move some people around, build a new building, move some people, open up some more space, then go in and do some retrofitting to the older buildings, upgrading and things like that.
I hate to point out anything, but the Justice Court, that energy, 18,000, that's got to be a mistake. That's got to be annual.
Yeah, we'll go back and look at that.
Which would mean the energy would be closer to like 40,000 a month.
That's what I thought as well.
Yeah.
I don't know. If not, the Justice Court needs to close their doors, during the day. But anyway, I still see, like you said, even if you could save 15 or 20,000 a month, fitting some things out, that would be a significant savings. I'm going to say forever, but for a long time. Long after we're probably all gone from this table.
Well, I guess the fact is, regardless, these buildings are not going to get better on
No.
They're not just going to miraculously stop getting worse or start to get better. So
you got to put some money.
We're going to have to do something at some point.
And I think in addition to this, we actually have the next slide, maybe. I think we actually went through and did the assessment on your buildings. Here where the main courthouse site issues is basically, if you look at the ranking scale over here to the left, shows kind of goes from a 4 down to a 0, which is something that must change. So roughly site, you're looking at a 3 for the main courthouse. You're looking at basically across, it kind of gets down to a one for your like building systems where your mechanical, electrical, all of that really needs to be addressed and updated there. And then over to the finishes, it's a one because you have the floors, some of the ceilings, and lighting, as well as the walls have the plaster coming off of them, those kinds of things. So basically that building ranked probably around your 18. If you look over here at the left, that area right there, you'll kind of see 0 to 7 says anything that needs to basically be renovated or replaced. 8 to 15 is improve or renovate. And then pretty much above that, 16, 23, it gets better as you go up. So if you look across, the main courthouse is an 18, so it's basically in the improved, maintained area. The investigation, that's actually a 7 because of the condition that's going on over there. Sheriff's Department is roughly right around a 22. It's kind of one of your newer buildings. The emergency E911 is actually your highest building, but yet we know there's just a few little minor things there. That's at 31. Your circuit clerk admin is at 24. Your justice court is at a 14. There's a few things going on with that building in terms of the back door drainage. Whenever they get a hard rain, water runs into the back door of the building there. They do have the older windows and not enough electrical power there as well. The toilets there, you only have that one area that meets ADA, those other bathrooms don't. And then they have their file storage, there's no protection for it. So if there was a fire, you have a lot of files that are open to being basically, no better word, destroyed. And then they have privacy issues in terms of at the front desk. When people come in, there's really no privacy there as well. On the youth court, ended up being a 16 because that's several offices over to the side in that older building. But I don't think the toilet actually there doesn't need ADA. On the Felix Long, that's your worst building, which ended up being a 5, which I think everybody kind of already knew that anyway. With the older windows, the electric power, the HVAC, the ADA, a lot of spaces not meeting ADA, and then there's not enough room in terms of in some of the areas, the rooms are not big enough. And then I don't know if y'all know this, but they have a pest problem in that building as well, in terms of rats and rodents and all that stuff in one of the break room areas there. So that building actually was a 5. And then your Oktibbeha County Health Department building actually ranked a 12 on the chart because there are some upgrades in terms of your building systems. A lot of the bathrooms there are not ADA. When you go down those hallways, the space there is really minimal. It's actually less than minimal. They don't have enough room. And then, again, privacy issues. When people come to the front desk, there's really no privacy there as well.
I do have a question.
Yes.
About any of these buildings that you see here. Investigations in the Felix Loan, in your professional opinion, would that be better served to renovate or restore, replace to?
I would pretty much, I think you can pretty much replace it. With the age of everything on there.
It's too much expense to.
Yeah.
I was thinking that, but just to make sure.
Okay. All right, are there any other questions on this chart here? All right, going on.
Yes, the Oktibbeha County Health Department has a 12, but in the greater scheme of things, that's a midway point between 8 and 15. So you would think about renovating or improving that possibly? I've seen some, I had to walk through with that, and I've seen some cold issues. Did you know that, would you report on some of those, or have you already reported on some of the cold issues?
Yeah, so, well, you know, there, they only have like the 2 restrooms, the one, male, female that meets ADA when you go down the hallway there, they don't meet ADA there. A lot of the rooms are too small, for what they're doing. In addition to that, they don't have enough space. They actually had COVID vaccines in the break room, because the actual lab areas is not big enough, the space is not adequate. And then each one of the offices got a whole lot of other storage in those offices that you barely can get in there and work because they're just not, they don't have a big enough storage room, they just don't have the space in that building. And then they also mentioned that their that one of their services are not even in the building, that they have to, that they're over as well, needs to be part of their facility. That's not even part of the health department. It's housed in another facility at another location.
So I guess, and I was going to ask that as well, but he beat me to it. So in your professional opinion there, should you knock walls out or should you replace it?
To be more efficient, I would say replace. To basically get more bang for your buck.
The whole building.
The point is you could dress up a pig's ear, it's still gonna be a pig's ear.
Correct.
Correct.
Thank you for that evaluation.
That was free of charge.
Plays as a pig hill.
So the I guess the charts that we pretty much have right behind these sheets are continuations of, well, let me go back one real quick, maybe. Right after that one. Okay. Right here is the chart that you've seen before, where we were looking at the square footages of your spaces. And we had, in the beginning, we looked at the overall building as if you had to do one brand new building for everything. And of course there was the cost. But now we know on the next, should be the next slide I think, the cost for your new building that would actually house your county administration, justice court, youth court, everybody that's in the Felix Lawn, the health department, and then adding a new board room for the supervisors and offices as well for the supervisors. You'll be looking at subtotal of about 46,000 square feet, rounded up to 47, and then you have a size factor in there of about 20% for some of those other buildings that actually need more space. So you're looking at roughly right around, or approximately right around, a total of about 56,000 square feet. And then when you take that number and use it like we were using in the previous chart, the building cost would actually come out to be about $22 million for that new facility.
And that's not only,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
go ahead. And that doesn't include the land cost, correct?
Correct. No, that doesn't include that.
And that is to replace, that doesn't have demolishing, you know what I mean?
Yeah, the demolition cost and all of that.
Which would, I'm sure, be somewhat, not minimal, but less.
Yes, and that, yeah, that'd be a lot.
Or would that, I didn't know if you built into that model.
We can probably include demolition in that cost, I would think. Yes, I think it can be included in that. Now the only thing that wouldn't be would be the land cost.
So this cost is opposed to the building was 31
for
million?
everything.
That's what.
In other words, the investigation, that's the room, the building that's, like I said, it predates anybody. right? It's a lie. So, you know, that little building down there, I mean, do you demo it and build another, you know, that's to what Supervisor Howard's saying. That doesn't touch them, it doesn't touch in our main courthouse, kind of retrofitting some things, the Sheriff's Department retrofitting some things. I guess beyond that, it touches just about everything but the Sheriff's Department and the investigations in the main courthouse as far as retrofitting some stuff, because the emergency management building is going to take minimal things. Correct. And the health department's a mute subject. The Felix Long is a mute subject. Youth court is a mute subject. Justice court's mute. And then the circuit. Did you include the circuit in the next slide?
No, the
so
circuit.
You would have to do some.
You'll have to do some
It would be probably the largest to handle besides the main courthouse. I guess that would be some things that we would need: the circuit, the sheriff's, the investigations, and then the main courthouse.
Correct.
What retrofittings or replacements you would have to do in that would be your only caveats, I guess, with that. I'm looking at that. Correct.
But once admin is out of the way, you're going to have space over there available for some of the things that they were talking about.
Correct. Yeah. For instance, we would make room for
maybe the best.
You know, what Tony's office would need.
Well, we had actually thought initially that the investigation could go over there, but after talking with circuit court, they said that the sheriff's area over there and the DA area doesn't even have enough space. So what I started to think was that you could almost keep the sheriff's on that hallway where it kind of connects to the jail area. You could keep that hallway, but then let maybe DA or something move over in you guys in the administration old space. That way they could have enough space in each area at that point. But you still have to address the courtroom issue and the jury room issue.
Which the main courthouse would be the new building that we would build with, you know.
Did they say that they wanted to be able to operate with 3 judges?
Yeah, they currently have 3 judges now, and they only have like chambers for 2 of them. But yes, they do have 3 over there now.
Well, I know they have 3. I'm saying, do they want to operate? My experience has been is when one judge is say in Columbus doing something, you'll have 2 over here doing something, and it. We can talk about this a little bit later. I think it's we may be assuming they need a 3rd courtroom over there, and that may be overextending. Or, for argument's sake, even if they do need a 3rd courtroom, if we're talking about a justice court and a county court, that there could be some double value in doing and having that other courtroom if it's needed.
Correct.
Yeah.
So how far along have you gotten to the scenario if we build a $22 million building and move those departments in there, then what all does it free up? You know, say for instance we build that building, get everybody that's going to go in there moved into there. Okay, now let's look and see what space we got that is freed up.
Okay.
What space is really worth going in and talking about renovating, and what space is not. You know, which space do you say, well, you know, if we go in and try to renovate, retrofit, we still got an old building, and it's still not as efficient as, you know, as it would be if we just built it. How far along, or is that another step?
That's the next step.
Okay, that's the next step.
That's
Okay.
the next phase.
Okay, got it.
Those are your findings, and then the next step would be to address your findings.
Okay. All right.
Am I wrong in saying that in this main courthouse, in a perfect world, we build the new facility. There's areas in this courthouse that could be used better. In other words, this room. I mean, other rooms, other offices around the backside and the peripheral of the court, the courtroom.
Well,
And
I
the
got my
new building.
judge's house back there. They've got their office, all that back there is taken up.
But see, that would be a new boardroom in the new building. Yeah, this
We
may
may use this for something else.
Yeah, it'd be used for
I'm
something
just
else.
saying, any space we could use in the event of absence of whatever we put in that new, take that into consideration too. But again,
Well, we could turn this into another courtroom.
yeah, another
So
small
that's what they were talking about. That's the next phase now, starting to determine
what
once everybody's out into the new building.
what can we put back in.
Now the only
It's about the
It's
same
large
size as the other small courtroom.
Now, the only thing about this one you have to think through, because when we talk with the, can't remember the young lady's name, but when we talk with her, Molly, she mentioned that the attorneys don't have any space to kind of utilize prior to going into the courtroom. So we'll have to consider that as well. Where would they be able to go? So there's some use and there's some needs we just gotta marry it all together. So the last thing we'll show you before we kind of talk about what you want to do for your next phase, maybe if you can scroll on over to towards the end, just so you know, that was all the analysis. Here was basically the 89,000 square foot building that we showed you over at the Felix Sloan location. If we go to the next slide, we actually started to look at the 56,000 square foot and how that would possibly fit on that site. And that's a one-story. And the one behind it is actually, the gray is actually if you made it into a two-story. That would be how much space you would actually have at that site.
I think, personally, I like the two-story, making it as compact as possible for a lot of reasons. Parking, et cetera, growth.
I guess you could sort of separate some departments that you sort of don't want together.
Yeah.
And you reduce that footprint, and that would,
As valuable as this land is going to end up being over the course of the next, honestly, the next 10 to 20 years, that compactness is probably a smarter move in terms of long-term growth for us.
Well, if you put that of course we're getting way too far, but if you put the two-story in the existing parking lot there, the parking lots, you could improve but utilize, their bases. It seemed like it would flow better.
And then there are some grade changes that you can incorporate into the building and parking as well, being 2 stories.
Is parking underneath something that people are moving more and more toward?
Right, to help with land, more
tight
efficient.
sites.
Still at the City Hall.
Well, I guess we can finalize, kind of make a few little minor changes on this study or report here for you, and we can actually provide hard copies of it for you as well as the digital copy. And I guess how do we kind of proceed from here, or what's the board thoughts about the next phase?
I think, after the Lieutenant Governor came and spoke to us, for those that were there, we can package this up, and that's what they're looking for. When I say they, the state, we can package this up and give something to hate to say our state reps, and something that the state can see is, this is the price tag, this is the impact, and this is why, then I think we would be in the running for it. I mean, with our money, if the state would match it, we'd be pretty close to getting there. We may have to finance some of it, but that's just my thinking. We would need some help on some of the COVID relief money. Whether they give it or not would be up to them. But I think it's incumbent upon us to package it to where it would be enticing for the state to realize this would be a positive impact on Ottawa County, the city, now and in the future.
I guess this is the analysis phase of it. If you all have done the analysis, now we need to decide whether we want to go. I guess probably the consensus is we don't want to do one building to house everything, and that sort of. So we need to determine now whether we want to go with the upstairs, the 2-story, which is probably where we'll go. Just thinking the 2-story. Then what would be the next step? Would we then start to look for money, and simultaneously would you all be doing the next phase of assessing the space that we're moving from and seeing who will be going, because we'll need to know, going forward, as many steps as we can have laid out with cost analysis, that'll just help us going forward, I think.
I think we're going to need a rendering, and it doesn't have to be perfect, but it needs to be something that we can present. Something that, and for that matter, our constituents, your constituents, are going to want to know, what is this going to kind of look like? What are we talking about here? And it may, whatever y'all's vision as a whole is, being able to present that as, a package. Now, and the truth is, y'all, this may take 2 boards to happen. I mean, I'm not we'll do our nose and it'll be overnight, but the vision that y'all have brought to the table here, I think this sets us up fairly good for the next 50, 60 years. And then, but I think that for us to be able to sell this to the Lieutenant Governor or to our constituents or whomever, we're going to have something to look at. That having an imagination about where we started, where we're at, where we're going, that's kind of a hard concept for a lot of people to get their head wrapped around, and that's their tax dollars. Y'all know as well as I do how that sometimes the sale that we have to do to make them understand what this looks like, what's going to make benefit the community.
Well, it's a fair question from the taxpayer.
Exactly right.
No different than we ask questions when anybody, if you get a service, you want to know what you're getting in return. We'll have to package this in a neat, nice package that for our benefit, but also for that COVID money, that state level money that came from the federal government.
With that in mind, are we in the original contract with Ashford and Major and moving forward with another contract with them? Because that does seem to be separate from the analysis for the cost to repair the other building that was not a part of the initial contract, I don't believe.
No, sir.
So then, in all practical purposes, we're ending the original contract with you. And then we need to give you some directives on where to go from here.
Correct.
That original contract was $12,000.
Correct.
We've already paid $6,000, so I think that's going to fall under county administrator is going to address that later. But directives in terms of where do we go from here? What do we ask Ashford and Major to do now? And are you gonna come back, when we ask you that, I guess you're gonna come back with a price in terms of what it would cost to do that.
Correct.
But what are we asking them to do from this point?
And good question there, Mr. President, is I think we need a work session. When I say us, when we can all be here to see what direction we want to go, you know, and getting into the nuts and the bolts of the specific buildings and the specific issues. I mean, how the building's going to lay. I mean, where I'm looking at the building, you could probably turn the building and have more parking. I mean, things like that. So I think we need to have a work session on just this. Of course, we got the budget, you know, meetings that we're going to have. We also need to have, I mean, if we're getting serious with this, and that's what the Lieutenant Governor told us, is that it was incumbent upon us to come up with some plans and some ideas, not just something that you paint on the wall, something concrete that we can say this is a package, and a price tag. Like I said, I think you're right. It's incumbent on us to do that. I think we need a work session. You know,
Would we ask Major and Ashford to be present at that work session?
No, I don't think so. I think
Yes
it's
or no?
That's something that we'll have to, before we give them some marching orders, we've got to find out what we want to do, you know. So, and then whatever comes to that, whatever fruit comes from that, then we get them involved. Because you have done a great job pointing out the different issues. Now it's up to us as to how we address them.
So I guess we are satisfied that they have delivered the product that we contracted with them.
I think so.
In this first phase. They've assessed, they've pointed out what our issues are. They've given us a remedy, I guess you would say, possibilities of different variants of it. So now, you're saying we go into a work session, and what? Because if we go into a work session, we're gonna be trying to determine what's the next step, or what we want them to do next. What are we?
What do we want to do?
Yeah, what can we do next? You know, and I don't have a problem with them being here. I just don't. I mean, I hate to say we may be wasting some of their time. It's just, I don't have a problem with y'all being here. It's just, I don't.
Probably internal discussion first, and then we can come back together with you guys.
That's my thinking, but I mean, I'm not going to lose sleep if they want to come here, I think they would help us.
Well, you know, anytime we get together, it's a public meeting anyway.
Right.
I mean, so it's not like they can't come, but
I mean, y'all can come. It's just.
Well, I'd like to see them at least be present. You don't have to be a part of the meeting. You can be back in the back listening, because you may later on and say, well, I don't know, guys, that might work or that might not work.
Yeah, technical questions that we might.
Yeah, right.
And I think with the information that we've gotten from them, and I don't want to load Daryl's wagon down. I know he's got plenty to do, but they have pointed out some issues in some of these buildings that maybe we could start to address. I'm not saying we'll address them all or get them to total satisfaction, but I mean, for instance, if a toilet doesn't meet ADA standards, what could we do in a building that we're probably not going to tear down? We're not going to tear down or replace. You know, we could start to punch the checklist. You know,
but I guess the issue with that is, you know, just changing that toilet, raising it up to ADA height doesn't address the door width and the wheelchair turnaround.
Right. Well, no, I'm not. I just brought that out as something that some of the things that we could do.
Yeah.
We won't be able to do most of the things, but
we can do much.
We can do something. You know. No, not really.
Not with what they.
Right.
It's not a lot Darryl can do with the issues they've identified. Right. I mean, it's just
Some of this stuff is structural to the point of,
You would have to knock walls out, open,
Yeah, open up
make
area.
handicap accessible.
And at the same time, it's supposed to be open.
Yeah.
I mean, how would it look if Daryl started, like I said, banging down there in that bathroom? We're gonna be done in the 6 months.
Asbestos, old building, you got asbestos, you got a tin. You all have done an excellent job with this first phase assessing and bringing us back this information. I would like to know, and I don't know how we would do that, is what the maintenance is costing us.
We've asked to reach out and get the list of POs for that, and they're
Okay.
working towards to see
Okay.
what they'll cost is.
I believe we need a motion to close out the original contract with Major and Ashford.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Supervisor Montgomery that we close the original contract, and that was $12,000 with Ashford and Major on their second.
But we still owe them the final payment, right?
Of
Yeah,
six,
okay.
yeah.
It's gonna be-
And we're just making an amendment that we're accepting, their report.
We're gonna pay the invoice.
And the invoice, the final payment on the invoice we made. Okay.
Well, you can do it now and then be done with it. So you accept that friendly
Sure,
motion?
yeah.
I'll second the motion.
Yeah, okay, motion by Supervisor Montgomery, second by Supervisor Trainer, that we end the original contract with Major and Ashford. Are there additional questions? No additional questions, all in favor? Motion carries 4-1.
And
you're getting to pay their contract.
Pay your contract.
Yeah, that-
I am getting what you're saying. When we have this work session, it would probably be good, not that they get into the, hey, this is what, but if we ask the question, well, what about the old, not the Felix Long building that's covered, but the, where the Justice Court's at, could we save that building or not? This would be questions that they could answer while they're here.
I guess we need to determine, are we coming together to try to package what you all were talking about? Do a package, I guess I'm having a little trouble trying to determine what are we gonna talk about in this work session. Are we gonna talk about
Are we doing it or
looking for
not?
funding?
Yeah.
Are we gonna talk about, I guess, we'll just have a work session and start talking.
Yeah.
I
guess everything's open,
yeah, okay.
But the only way I see us doing this is if we have well, first off, we all have to agree to it. And then secondly would be, can we package this? And when I say package this, the plans, like Mr. Robinson here was talking about, get it a clean package, something that we know a good estimate on the price. I mean, we can't say that we know exactly what it is. Something that when we do go to our lieutenant governor on the state level, that it won't be unclear to them, well, we don't know how much this is going to cost, and not get that matching money that he had talked about. I think that's the only way that we could afford to do this, is if we package it up and show the state, the benefits of it, and that we have this is what we want to do. We're all in accord with it. This is the direction Ocklawaha County is going, or not, through these work sessions, and either we move forward or we don't. And I guess that's what the work session would show.
So what would the package look like? And Attorney Robinson, I'm asking you to put on your Jackson hat now. What would that package look like? Would it be, okay, this is the new building we want, this is how much it's gonna cost, these are the renovations we're gonna do, these are the departments that we're gonna, when we present this package, do you think it'll be better to be the complete package with the new building and the renovations and the moving of the different departments and say this is our final completed?
I think I think it's twofold. I think one, I've got a lot going on in my head. I'm trying to figure out which one to pull out here first. I do think that we're going to have a rendering, whatever that vision is for it, and it has to have a serviceable component to it. This is what's going to go in here. This is the space that's needed. That kind of stuff. And I think that's fairly easy to pull together. The other part of it, though, has got to be the commitment. What the county's commitment is going to be? Is the county's commitment going to be? And we may have to break this into pieces. That's what my thought process has been with some of this is if we're going to do this, I don't know that we necessarily need to present it to them that we're not going to do it if you don't help us, because I think that shows I don't think that shows a commitment to doing it. I really don't. However, if we go into this with the thought process that we're willing to, we understand that we may not get all the money all at once in terms of helping us put this together. But I remember whenever I just got out of college, my daddy told me I needed to go buy me a suit. Now, at the time, I'd never bought a new suit. I'd bought jackets and all this kind of stuff. So I went and bought me a new suit and spent way too much money. As I got a little older, I realized you could go to cheaper places and get a cheaper suit. But I also learned that suit would fall apart pretty quick. That real expensive suit lasts a little longer. We're going to have to decide which suit we want in this. Either we want a package and a product that's going to last us 50 to 100 years, or do we want to do something less than to get us through the next 5, next 10? And I don't know what that answer, I really don't know what that answer is. And I think part of the conversation that needs to be had is what is the amount we're willing to put up, whether that be through a bond, whether that be through savings, whatever savings we feel like we can find in all this, whether that be even through, we have a piece of property over here, look at our inventory of property, see what we got. If we can sell this over here and put it toward this, there are ways that we can do this, but I think that we've got to figure out how much commitment, because I know a lot of y'all, in terms of what your private agenda is, to make sure some roads get paved. And I don't know where this is in our, what do we want to do first?
Well, I guess my reason for asking that question was, do we want to present a package that says from beginning to end, this is what we're going to do? This to include
I think that's
a new building, renovating this building, that building, moving. Do we present a complete package? And if so, that means that we'll have to retain their services again to do this next phase before we can put a complete package together, is what I'm saying.
I think
but
that's
maybe
a fair
this
assessment.
is maybe this is a workshop discussion.
I think you pretty much have laid a fair assessment of what we're going to have to do. And like I said, if Rob were king for a day, I know what I would do. But I work for this board. I'll have 2 positions. I work for the board and I work for my district too. Both of those things are important to me, and this project is important to me from both of those aspects. I know that this board's got a vision for what it wants to accomplish, and we've individually had conversations about kind of what that vision looks like. But I don't know that, like John has said, whether or not y'all come together and concluded that this is what you wanted to do or look like or whatever.
Oh, absolutely. I know. I don't think we have, but I think we're just trying to put a plan in place. And you all have said this could be 15, 20-year process. But I think if we've got a comprehensive package plan in place, we'll know, okay, well, we're coming to you for this amount so we can do this phase and so forth and so on. But at the end of the entire process, this is what the project will look like. This is what the final product will be. But we'll know and they'll know when we're coming for money what we're working toward as a finished product. I'm just,
It's a lot of moving parts that we're gonna have to, I mean, we couldn't discuss them all in this meeting today.
I agree.
Architectural design plans, I would think would have to be a part of that package, that final package. With that in mind, not putting you on the spot, but how long do you think it would take to move from here and develop some architectural plans for the building that we're talking about? Normally. And roughly.
All around 4 to 5 weeks.
And that's what kind of meeting back and forth with the board and kind of making some adjustments here, there, meeting with all the different directors and departments, making sure things are done.
Wow.
That's quicker than I thought.
Just once you get a pathway to go, we come up with multiple iterations of layouts. Say, I want my space here. That's kind of the process. But after we get that, then it doesn't take long to come up with a final plan, a schematic plan to go from.
And then renderings and all of that would be included as well.
Okay.
A lot faster I thought it would be.
So it's kind of on us now to come up with what we really want to do with this without a meeting.
I guess you have to give us a quote on what the thoughts to get to that point. Well, we know one thing. You got the ball rolling.
You're dang right.
You presented us with what we needed to start working through this.
It's something else that might not be as bad. And I don't know whether or not this is part of this or whether it's the next part, but being able to give an estimate to this board as to this is how much it's costing you to operate today.
Right.
This is potentially, and obviously we don't know what that can look like exactly. This is potentially what it's going to look like for you to operate in that with utilities. I think that to your point was probably one of the biggest selling parts of, and to your part for that matter, that could be able to show everyone we're wasting a tremendous amount of money in an old building that's got leaks everywhere, or it's got air's coming out underneath the out of the windows and what have you. The maintenance of this building is outrageous. I own an old house. Trust me. I know. So the reality is, there could be
in the guidelines that we're not meeting that we will be meeting.
Yeah. This was when this was originally proposed. That was the original thinking of what are we putting into Occidental County, as opposed to what we would be putting and how much more efficient we would be in offering services
Efficient and
to the people
compliant.
and compliance to the people of this county. Not for the next 5 years, but for the next 50 to 60 years.
It's awfully hard for us to go out here and put standards down on the people in our county when we walk into a building
is out of compliance
and we're out of compliance.
It's some things they highlighted in this report that's really pitiful, that we've got our employees working in some positions in some of these buildings here in this county.
but we're at least addressing them.
Absolutely.
And these are old problems that have been here long before, even since before you were land.
Absolutely.
So I mean, we're trying to address these issues. Now whether we can get them all or not is another question.
Do we have any additional questions from Major and Ashford? before we close out. And I don't know whether we need additional motion. We got one motion pertaining to them. Are there a need for additional motion?
I think maybe we can have we don't need a motion, but we could maybe set a work session, and in that rough work session, then figure out what we need to do, or when we need to include them.
Our county administrator will be getting in. County administrator thinks she'll be calling us and trying to extend this. She's good at that. She's good at calling and emailing and establishing a work session. You take care of that.
You all have done an outstanding job.
Thank you guys for your help.
What y'all done so far.
Thank you.
Road managers report. Move forward. Mr. Baggett.
Good morning.
Good morning.
See the tractors and the bush hogs are in.
Yeah, they are. Half of them, he said, side clippers and those tractors will be in 3 weeks, he said. But he didn't say it without confidence, he said.
Thank you. All right, thank you. Good. We gotta get them out there. I looked into the report, so I'm good with it.
Do you have any questions about the report?
Well, I do have a question. When I first took office, for instance, I see right here on Albert Road and Neal or Lean Lane, some capital improvements. Are we going? In other words, when Brown Road got completed, we rotated kind of how our grubbing crews. Are we rotating? Are we? In other words, when we do some upgrades on the roads, I mean, could I get with you on some upgrades on some of the roads in District 1?
Yeah, you
I
can.
mean,
I'm pretty much going about for your road plan. But yeah, if you have one you're ready to start, I mean, it doesn't take us long to grub a road or to get it ready. I mean, I don't know how they did it prior to now, but like we've got two grubbing crews.
I was just wondering, how do you? I mean, do we rotate, or we just upon requests, or?
Upon request.
Okay. Well, then I'll just get up with you on a couple of roads.
Okay.
That's it.
And we don't. The crews that we don't have grubbing crew per se. All of the crews we have at this time are capable of building a road. Like we have right now, we have Casey, Lonnie, and Derek on 3 separate roads. And depending on the weather, and depending on how fast we do any particular part, they can pick up and go from there on the road. And so,
I'll get it with you. I've got a few. Like I said, I was just this weekend, just in my thought, I was thinking. But anyway, I'll get it with you.
What do we capitalize? Do we capitalize salary? Equipment is owned by the county.
I guess everything that's on this page right here.
The salary, equipment, and the material. So any cost associated with that road.
It hadn't been calculated in salary.
I don't think they've been taken out before your road plan,
Yeah.
but they've been capitalized.
Yeah, I guess that's my point. We capitalize, you're right. We capitalize, but we don't take it out of the road.
Now that's administrative.
Well, we haven't been. It would be something new if it would be taken out. If it would be taken out of your road plan, that would be something new.
What Supervisor Newton saying, you know, we set salaries for the year anyway,
They working
so
anyway.
they're already
They already work, they already come to work.
So they don't come off of the 4-year road plan money.
Right.
Yeah.
What about a road?
And that's one of the reasons why. That's one of the reasons why we don't contract as much as what we try to use county forces to do as much work as possible.
Which I think is smart.
Yeah,
I mean, it really is.
yeah.
But what about a road? For instance, we've had the freeze, and then we've had the dry. For instance, and we've got a road now that needs. I mean, it's rough, and it needs some overlaying because of damages just from wear and tear. That is maintenance, correct? Just from
you say
New Light Road, for instance.
Okay,
right now.
yeah, New Light Road is maintenance.
It needs, you know,
It needs to be
overlaid,
well,
like Silver Ridge Road, or
yeah, imagine it would, and not, I don't know. I mean, that's something the board has to define. But I see maintenance as being 400 feet, tear it out, fix it, and that, you know, skip up and fix another section. Now, this continuous deal, that's pretty much enough. And the reason I'm saying this is because it'll kill our budget. I mean, it'll kill the maintenance budget because we don't. The maintenance budget includes dig outs, and replacement, but it doesn't include like a half mile of continuous.
well, it's not. I mean, you know, it's just a spot here and a spot there and a spot
That
there.
maintenance is that road that you're talking about, New Light. That's maintenance.
Close to the gravel.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about. Exactly.
Oh yeah, that's bad. I rode it
Can
the
we
week.
go over that? That would be my only request.
Right.
And if I need to make a motion, I will. Is that I'll make my motion on New Light Road. Needs to have some overlaying or something done. You know exactly where I'm talking about.
I do, man. I wrote it last week, and my intent was by the end of this week to be on that. But every time we get ready to go, we get a rain, and it kind of sets us back. And also, we had to do a lot of work on the equipment, on our chip seal and all that. But that's done now. Our mat and seal equipment is ready to go. It's just a matter of getting the time when we get the dry material and put it down and run over that road. We got that one. We need to do some more work on Silver Ridge. We've got a lot of bad places where we put culverts, cross drains in. We need to hit those, and that's what we're looking at.
Just make a little hit list for in that is try to overlay or get New Light Road, as soon as you can, taken care of, because I had a couple of constituents that called this weekend, and I explained to them that was from when it froze, when it heaved that road up pretty bad. So if I need to make a motion, if not, I'll just not. But
well, this maintenance project we
I'll rescind that motion just to let him.
Yeah, we 50% as far as the maintenance on the road is concerned, because we've done all that dig out.
Right.
Places, where that road is bad.
It's packed down now. What you put in there, but it needs a new
overlay. You get a grader in there, some fresh pressure run, steel roller it and pack it. And actually, we're talking about probably 4 days. We can get 4 days of weather and material. We can move forward with it. And then, like I said, that's my plan.
You had sort of had on your agenda, you thought maybe before the end of July you would be paving and chip sealing road.
Well, yeah, but, I mean, we can't move forward with anything until we get enough dry material to do. Now see, Harold Road is ready to go. I mean, it's ready to go. Camp Airport Road we need to put some clay gravel on that road. We got a road, Theodis is ready to go. And those are the roads we've been constructing over the last couple of years. But just to answer your question, yeah, that was my initial plan. But with the weather and the bids that we got for the soil cement, it kind of trumped those plans. But it's not, we're nowhere near too far away from the season. We can put that down until the middle of October, as far as Madden Seal is concerned. State aid won't let you do it because of the different things involved. But in other words, we have plenty of time. If we got bids in today for soil cement that the board could accept or would accept, then we could immediately jump on Harold and Theodis. We still need to do a little upgrade to our airport, but then we can do that.
To that, I don't mean to interrupt, have we gotten back, we took bids, we retook bids?
The bid opening for soil cement is the 23rd at 10. We're advertising now. The first time we didn't accept any.
Okay.
We had only one bidder, yeah.
Because speaking of those roads, I mean, it'd be good to get them before the winter hit.
That's starting to push it a little bit, I guess, at the end of August when it started opening.
I mean, we'd have September.
Yeah.
If we opened it that day, could we get that material to those roads?
The only road we like is Camp Airport, and if we got a couple of weeks of weather, a few days of weather, to start hauling clay gravel, we can get it in.
But then it's going to determine whoever gets the bid and what their schedule is going to be.
That's right. That's going to be.
See, my suggestion would be to go ahead and I was prepared to do it. Go ahead and get not Camden Stone, but the person who got the first bid, which it would surprise me if we get another bid, to go ahead and get them in line so that if they get the bid again, they can go ahead and be planning to move here, and then that'll give us some time to get all our material in place so we can pave it right behind the soil cement. Because that's the other problem you're gonna have. I mean, you waiting around the contractors to be ready to work, and everybody's got their schedule already laid out. Because we should have went ahead and moved forward with it on the first time. At least get the project out of the way that we had ready, and then if we had some additional ones, we can get catched over when they got time. So that's gonna be the only problem that we're gonna have that I can see after 23rd, being able to get that schedule.
I mean, we can accept it, but the contractor might say, well, listen, it'll be spring before I can get there. So we'll see. I mean,
so we're only talking about from 6 to 8 days to Madden Seal those roads. I mean, it doesn't take long. When the contractor does his soil cement, it doesn't take long to Madden Seal a road. It's a quick process. Like the oldest will take a day. Harold will probably take 3 days. And then we got Camp Airport, it'll take probably 3 days. That's the Madden Seal once the
soil cement down.
Once soil cement's down and it dries. You need 2.5 to 3 days for the soil cement to dry.
so if we don't get another bid, are we going back to the original and get started, or what's the plan?
Well, I mean, I don't know if we go back to the original, but I'm thinking that'll be the same bid. The same company probably put in the same bid, unless they're not interested. And if they're not interested, then that would definitely put us in a quagmire. But I think we'll get at least one bid.
Longview Road. And I know, is there any way, and you may need to get up with the contractor. I'm trying to how to word this as to how we can get it.
We've got a grader in. We'll grade it
Just to
all the way through. On one side, the contractors come in but on the other side, we can't do anything on that side.
On the bare side.
Right, but then on the other side, we can take that grader and go down through there and put some just grade and gravel.
Make Phillips aware, and anything we could do. You know, there's some families in there that I feel for right
Me too.
now. And I think we can all agree if we go down there that that's the worst road in the county right now.
Yeah. Those people can't get in and out.
That's a matter of opinion.
Oh man.
No, they can't get in and out. Have you been out long yet?
Go down there.
No, it's not. It's the contractor.
You get stuck.
It's closed.
Yeah,
It's closed. It's glazed.
yeah, but it's closed. It's closed. Part of where it's closed that people live there. I mean, and so they can't get in. No, it's not the worst road because.
Well, I mean, I'm saying that because I know people hit me with it all the time. That's why I said that.
No, this was because of the fact that it's in the middle of being constructed, and the contractor is kind of
in the middle of construction.
Kind of left it, and so.
But there's progress happening, whereas there's not progress happening on some of the other ones that they say are the worst one of the worst in the county. So that's why I look at it. There's some progress happening out there.
I got the worst.
All right. But at the same time, it's not the county has a contractor.
That's right.
There are other issues that have come up.
Utilities.
You'll be just as satisfied as that as we are with Blackjack. The progress on that, and that's been a long.
Yeah.
I mean, that's been a saga. So that's only. I just have to be hopeful. But as far as short term, what can you do? Short term, then
we need to get the utilities.
That's what we're talking about. I thought we were talking about taking a county grade and going down through that grade and put some gravel on it so that people can get out.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I'm thinking.
Try to get it where it's passable.
I'm thinking passable.
1725 Longview Road. At least get to his door.
Right, and you talk about that's just a few hours of maintenance type work on that particular road.
I'm talking to him right now.
So you can handle that?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's just, like I said, it's just maintenance.
Can we, here's the thing okay. The problem is too, we have a contractor that's got a tractor and a disc at a bridge. We need to make it passable through there. If whatever we can do to work with them, I'm not asking for pretty. I'm asking for passable, because as it is now, people can't even get to church. And I had to just go for it in my truck. And that was to try to get to the church parking lot. So if there's any way we could, if you could get with Phillips, maybe their representative, ask and work with them on making that road passable, because I know it's wet right now, but if the road's in the condition it is now, in November,
let me ask this: is the road under contract? The road is under contract. Is Clyde's our engineer? Should Clyde be the one? Should it be the contractor's responsibility to keep that road travelable? And should Clyde be the one working with the contractor saying...
We had a meeting to speak to that. We had a meeting last week. Rob was there, I was there, the contractor was there, the city was there. We've got utility issues. Right now, the city's got water lines where the ditches are at. So the contractor can't work. I mean, he showed it was in the contract. If there are utilities, existing utilities in the road, those days don't count against them. So we really need the city to move their water line, like Talking Warrior has, like Longview did. And they were under the assumption that they were out of the way. The problem that's happened and I showed Rob earlier, the road, if you're coming from 12 or 25 and you're going to Highway 12, where the federal land is over here, where the John Starr is at, they wouldn't give us any right of way. So we had to move the whole road over. So when I say over 12, 15 feet or more. So the power lines that they were putting in and the water lines that were there, they thought were out of the way. They're not out of the way. They're right in the way. And so the main issue right now, because Fort County or AT&T, they're moving their poles and they're putting everything on the Fort County poles temporarily. They'll add additional poles. But what's got them completely stopped is, I would say 4 weeks, 3 or 4 weeks now, is that they kept hitting water lines and they were seeing.
So the contractor saying we can't keep this road passable because it's costing us, because they won't move their utilities, and we would have been past this area.
AT&T, they hit some cables and things like that that were supposed to be out of the way. They got a bill for like $5,000. It's just been a tough project, I can tell you that. So we have utility issues that need to be cleared up.
So does the road department need to go down through and fix that one lane that's still there?
Yes, sir.
To where people can get through?
And
do we need to do that? Is that what we need to do?
We do. And anything we can do to make contact with Phillips to tell them to move that tractor so you can continue that lane all the way through the whole length. That way people can at least get in and out, almost like a temporary frontage road.
Right.
So is it going to be the county's responsibility to keep this road passable? I mean, what if we get into November?
That's why I'm asking.
Whose responsibility is it going to be to keep this road passable?
It's going to be bad.
And open? Is it the contractor? Is it the utility companies for not moving their utilities so the road can get finished? Is it?
Which brings me to a question I've got that I need to get permission. If I'm going to contact AT&T to discuss this bill that they sent Phillips, I need permission from my board to do it. And I was going to ask, since we're talking about it, it's just any time to ask. The problem is, we've been talking to AT&T for 2.5 years. Let me bring back up. I've been talking to AT&T for 2.5 years. I don't know who.
I'd say 7 or 8.
Yeah, it may be longer than that. So I would like to ask for permission, or if y'all don't want me to, I won't. But if y'all would let me out, because it's what that amounts to is if Phillips gets a bill for $5,000, you know what's going to happen. We're going to get a bill at some point. So I would be less likely to think it was our responsibility to at least take this on, had it not been for the fact that we've been having discussions. This has been
We need to determine who is delaying the project. Who is actually the one delaying the project?
Right now,
the city and AT&T.
Well, that's what we need to
the
pay.
city's water line is smack dab in the middle of the bottom of the ditch that they're trying to dig to get to the, you know what I mean, to get to that back slope. I mean, it's in every scoop of dirt that they pull. It is in the way.
They won't come move?
They are now.
Well, have you furthered that conversation?
They've confirmed that they're getting it together. Mm-hmm. And he's right. The reason it didn't get moved was because I don't think anybody looked at the engineering, but if you go out there and look at it on the ground, it looked like it was out of the way at first.
It's not.
and it's not. What ended up happening was that when Starr
moved them over.
Right. That did, and I mean, I understand why they thought it was this way, but reality was it wasn't. So that part's dealt with. The other part with AT&T is just
they were moving their stuff. The day we had that meeting, I went out there that morning
and I almost had to make a phone call because I almost didn't get out. But they're moving their stuff as we spoke. They were moving theirs, and I do believe it's out of the way. But the problem now that we have is in the existing right-of-way that we have water lines in there. And you know what the contractor's going to say? We don't, and that's what shut him down, is that they didn't have a clear work site. So not only do we need to know that yes, they're moving it, we need to know a timeline for moving that water line, because
He told me, and I'll get confirmation on this, but he told me that they would have that moved out of the way within the next 2 weeks. Now,
I know. I'm gonna go every day, and I'm gonna get in my 4-wheel drive truck, and I'm gonna try to go every day to make sure they're beginning that.
I can honestly say getting roads widened and rebuilt is one of the toughest things I've ever seen.
Can you make contact with the city, Rob, again, and you can just text me, call, whatever, and I'll make a motion that we task our county attorney to get with the city of Starkville and get back maybe something in writing that says when they will have that out of the way. And as soon as they get it out of the way, to let you know, so you can let us know.
Yes, sir.
Did you mention something about AT&T too? Also,
you can add AT&T as well. However, I believe they'll be out of the way.
They will deal with that bill as well.
Yes, and deal with the bill. But I believe they'll help us there too. I'm hopeful. After some conversations we had, I think we're going to be okay there.
so.
The main thing is we need that out of the way. Because the bigger issue is, if that holds it up long enough, and you heard our contractor say, with the price of everything going up,
it's going to cost us more. Back.
So
I'll second that motion.
Motion by Supervisor Montgomery, second by Supervisor Howard. Are there any questions? No questions, all in favor? Motion carries 4.
Thank you.
I've got, while we've got the road manager, I need a cover installed at 81 Lucifer Lane for a guy to be able to enter his property.
I'll make the second.
Motion by Supervisor Howard that we install that cover and get the address. Second by Supervisor Montgomery. All in favor? Motion carries 4. Since we own that, I need to make a request for a cover to be installed for James O. Fine. That's F-I-N-E. James O. Fine, to clear his property at 501 Harris Road. To clear his property at 501 Harris Road.
I don't have a problem. What do you mean clear like the?
We want to clean it up. Got a lot of trees on
the road.
Motion by Supervisor Williams, second by Supervisor Howard, that we provide a cover to James Fine at 501 Harris Road. Are there any questions? If there's no questions, all in favor? Motion carries 4.
One thing is did we, I assume we did, however we may not have, when we got our man to spray our roadsides, Mr. Wall, is he also spraying the limbs that are coming across?
Yes.
Okay. I was just making sure because I've got several of them that are starting to do this.
I spoke with a contractor on Friday. He was doing some work over in Choctaw County. Coming over here on Thursday, and he has this device on the end of his excavator that cut those limbs and mulch them at the same time. And so we're gonna probably retain him to do a couple of days' work and look at it. He said he says production rate is about a mile a day. I'll have to see that and see how it works. And a couple $100 an hour, so we'll look at that.
Yeah, that would be great.
That'd be great. Fantastic.
So what, you can just get it for professional service? I'm assuming?
He's probably the only one that's got one of those with him, I bet.
And it's got a mulching head on it.
Now, the city got one on the tracker. Yeah, they're mulching head on that. The city had one.
If it works okay,
do you need to put this out to bid?
No, we're gonna keep it down.
Okay, you got that.
We're gonna keep it down
Okay.
about 35.
All right, we're good.
I'm sure that
That was
administrator will
that was a
stop
good
us.
question.
Hey, and to that point,
She's watching and listening.
well, to that point, those heads cost about $25,000 to $30,000, and it's meant to chew up stuff. So it is lower. In other words, it's harder to now. I mean, you can pull a hydraulic hose. It'd be something to look into, and that's countywide for all of us.
Yeah, I think they did a demonstration. Maybe the first year I came. What's the little road you turn off of Highway 12 and go right there by the Dollar General and
Thompson Road.
Thompson Road. They did a little demonstration out there, and they had a couple of different heads that you put on.
Right there on the
They
left.
worked pretty well.
I wasn't able to be there that day. I came the next day,
I
but you
was
could
there.
see.
Okay, yeah.
It seemed like a good investment.
It is,
We
yeah.
got limbs almost to hit your car as you
Right.
drive along the road.
But now this is a different head. It works a lot better than what we saw.
Right.
I mean, this thing, it's just kind of like,
I'd like to see that in operation.
yeah.
While he's doing that, go get him and film 30 seconds or so of it.
Yeah.
But
Well, they sent me 30 seconds of it.
okay.
I mean, it's fast. I mean, it's just like,
I think the same one. This was actually when Victor was still here.
Yeah, I remember
that they did that demonstration.
I remember the day he was going to be there, and it was on that excavator, on a mini excavator. wasn't it?
Yeah,
And I just couldn't get to it.
there it is. Oh, just watch it.
I didn't mean to open so many boxes, but they need to be
Okay,
looked in.
see it. So
Yeah, that's it. That's the exact same one.
If it works
Yeah.
well, there's nothing to stop the county from purchasing one.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
You can get, the guy I saw was on New Light Road. It was actually a $22,000 head.
And so well, this man at $2,000 a day, that's not for 10 days.
Yeah. So,
But we're not gonna do that. We're not gonna. I said, if you did that, but we're not without going through the proper. We got administrators gonna keep us. Yeah, let me just say one thing. On these, let's not forget the rainy days. The rainy days come and they leave, and the next day it's hot and shining, and you know it's like the road department maybe hadn't been doing anything, but we working now. I mean, we out there in the rain, cleaning out ditches, doing everything we can, and
If we keep good equipment going, that's the number one deal.
That's right.
well, I've seen some improvements in some areas that's been much needed.
We can
Everywhere.
We can keep good equipment going. It's the bad equipment that we have a challenge with. And that's changing now. We got the tractors in. But we took some, but anyway, that's all right.
How do we stay in communication with the shop forums in terms of what projects they're working on? How they've come along, how the progress has come along.
Right.
The shop forum, now you grew up in crew and the building crew. It's easy to know what project they're working on and keep up with that progress.
Let me say something about the shop first. The equipment we have is some of it is so old until it's not. We send it to Caterpillar and our John Deere, and they say they can't work on it. We have to go back and get it. And so I don't want to throw. It seems like our shop foreman is not capable, because he is. young and hadn't had a lot of experience, but he's capable if the equipment is capable of being fixed.
Yeah.
But I know you asked.
I'm not talking
We have
about
a.
the shop farm. We're talking about a crew farm. The farm was out on the crew. The shop farm was doing fine.
The farm is out on the crew.
Yeah. Each one of the crews.
How am I keeping up with them?
Yeah.
Well, I see them every day. We discuss every morning before they leave what they're going to be doing. And if they're on a job that's going to take a week, it's pretty consistent. So once they get that done, then we just meet every morning and determine what can be done, and try to distribute the resources as best we can. I guess I misunderstood your question.
Yeah, do you kind of communicate that with the supervisor of the district in which they're working? Could that be communicated?
It can be. What they doing and where they are.
Yeah.
I can just send a text or I can call.
Yeah,
okay, we can do that.
Just for the purpose of consistency, from one road to another road, we realize that everything is going to be capitalized, but we do need to ensure that we know which items going to be taken off the 4-year road plan. Now, salary we know is not going to be, it hadn't been in the plan, so that had to be a board decision in terms of whether we do or whether we do not.
Right.
But it wouldn't be much of a purpose to use county employees if we have to take that off the 4-year road plan. We'll probably do just as well contracting it out.
Right, and that goes directly to the administrator's office. All we do is turn this summary in.
Right.
And the administrator says she's going to come out and show us how to do some other things on capitalization. But we just turn that in. We don't do the accounting part, taking it out and all that.
Yes, I understand.
Okay, we just do that.
You have to capitalize, end up capitalizing everything. But we need some type of consistency coming from this board in terms of what we are going to take off the 4-year road plan.
Salary does not come off.
Salary does not.
This is a report that I use. He turned in to me that he omitted in his road manager's report. So that's the reason you have it like this.
That's the only.
That don't come out.
That's the type of consistency that I'm looking for.
Okay.
You know, salary doesn't come out.
Right.
And we realize too that the equipment, and we are going to rent some equipment. We know that the rental of that equipment will probably come off the 4-year road plan. But what about the use of county-owned equipment?
It hasn't been, as far as I know.
We're just looking for some consistency is what we're looking for here.
Yeah.
And maybe some.
I don't see how you can't capitalize on that. Even when you build on the road, the salaries, the overtime, and everything. I'm trying to understand your question.
Yeah.
Well, maybe the better thing would be what do you pay for out of your 4-year road plan money?
Yeah, but
you pay for your soil cement, you pay for your chip sealing, your material. So maybe the better question is what do you pay for out of your 4-year road plan?
why should you pay for all of it?
Why should you or shouldn't?
Why shouldn't you?
You mean labor and
the
whole thing? It's dollars.
We shouldn't because we have not in the past, and I believe you have had some county roads done in the past.
But it's all county money. It's all got to be accounted.
Are you saying that we need to start doing that?
I'm saying just continue to do like we've been doing.
We're going to continue to do what we can.
And to acknowledge that I received the publication of the public hearing that we had.
Yeah, we're talking about GTR.
That guy knows the aviation world.
Okay, sorry, President. I'm just trying to wrap up that board.
There's a new contract that's going to be developed with the Golden Triangle Site of Waste Management. They're going to extend between October 2021 to September 2026. So once we enter into that contract, it will be a 5-year contract. So I've looked at it. One of the things I saw was positive on there is that when the customer receive one can, that is not the responsibility of the customer to replace the can. The Golden Triangle Waste Management will accept the responsibility to replace the second can or the third can or whatever. So that was good. That we had some question about that in the past.
Okay, so whatever address it is, if a house has been there 20 years and the can tears up, we don't take that can out there?
Yeah, we take it out there,
Okay.
but the customer's not responsible
For the can.
for paying for it. In other words,
Okay.
paying for the repair. That's the way it's been done
No,
anyway,
yeah,
but
that's
it wasn't in the contract though. We've
Okay.
been doing it that way all the time. But the contract stated that the customer is responsible for replacing the can. The contract said something different now. There's a couple other things in the contract that before I think we sign it, let our attorney take a look at it. I have a copy of it that leave with you
Yes,
to
sir.
take a look at that.
But the customer won't have to pay for an additional can.
That's right.
Because if what happened sometimes in my district, somebody will steal a can from somebody.
Yeah. And it's been in the past that the customer have not paid for a can in the past, but that's not what the contract said. The contract said that the customer is responsible for replacing the can.
But that's good to have that change.
It's good to have that change in the contract.
You mentioned 5 years. This is the 5. So I thought we could exit that contract each year as long as we do it by September. Is that not still the?
There are some procedures that I think you directing that question to the.
Okay. Well, you said he was going to review the contract anyway.
Okay. There is a procedure in the contract. How do we get out of it? So I don't want to speak to that. So I think Attorney Robertson will speak to it.
Okay.
So are we satisfied with the service? Because my indication was that there was some dissatisfaction with the service, and we may look at the possibility of request for proposal.
I mean, to be fair, what they weren't able to get to on Longview Road, it's something I don't know the answer to. If they miss a route here or there, I'm not okay with it, but I'm okay when I call and Benny says, okay, sorry, not a problem, and he goes back and gets it. I mean, it's not perfect. It could be better, but it could be worse, you know.
I don't think we are experiencing problems that we probably won't experience even if we had somebody else doing it. I think we would still experience some of those same issues. That's just my thing. Anyway.
What about the can delivery?
I mean, I took 9 garbage cans out last week.
And they hit me pretty good, so I don't know how many cans are in that contract will be allotted each year. I know we went up on them, but it looked like we need to go up on them some more.
Well, I mean, doing the simple math, I took 9 myself out. I didn't intend to take any of them. But, no, I took 8. But 8 times 52, just me. I mean, that's 400 cans. If I did that every week, I've already got 2 more requests this week.
You mean the number of cans allowed to talk about?
Right, the number of cans allowed
each year.
I
think it's 600 right now.
Yeah, 600, but the allotment of cans on what he's talking about, I don't think it should count against our allotment when you have a new home. We can't affect that, or one's just torn up. The only issue I guess I really have is I wish that they would, when I say they, if they come to pick the trash up, the Golden Triangle, and just dump the trash, and if the can's bad, leave that bad can there and let me know, or let someone know that at 101 whatever road there's a bad can, because a lot of times people take that can and they'll drag it up to the house, even if it's got no wheels. I've seen people drag, you know what I mean, part of the can out. sometimes what the garbage group will do is they'll take that can with the trash, crush it all up, and my route is on Wednesday, Thursdays, Fridays. So Friday afternoon, somebody calls me at 3:45, mad because their garbage can's gone, and the central shop's closed up. I just wish they wouldn't do that. I wish they would say, hey, we got a bad can at whatever street. Tell the guy that's on the truck, write it down. If there's 4 bad cans on that route, let Mary Ann know to text or email somebody.
And we had, at one point, Mary Ann was, at the end of each day, she would call Emily and give her a list of people that the can was gone. And every now and then I have to remind them, you know, Mary Ann, she'll pick up the phone now and call me, well, we picked up a can at
so and so.
But every so often, I'll get that call. Yeah. Well, they picked my can up last week and didn't say anything or didn't let anybody know, and then that person has to start calling around trying to figure out how to get a can. So,
well, they want us to document, like if John High Road not picked up.
Yeah.
And on the flip of that, let us know when you just pick a can up and it's gone.
And Supervisor William and myself, we made a suggestion that whenever you have an issue, text it to us so we can keep running total of the issue.
Yeah. They took my can Friday and I don't have a garbage can.
Okay. And I got that wrote down now. I'll take care of it. Things like that, though.
It can be worked out, but.
What was the cost in the new contract? Is it sped up or has it increased?
It's going to be, I believe it is a slight increase.
On the monthly?
I believe on the monthly, slight increase.
It's 13 now. What's it going to be? Are you talking about our contract? We pay.
It's going to be a confusing type of issue about how many customers to bill.
I think we worked that out. I think Jennifer and Mayor Ann is communicating each month.
Yeah, they're doing well with that. That's working good.
Yeah. I think, however, the contract reads, depending on how many customers Golden Triangle Planning and Development bill for that month, is how they going to decide on what customers to bill, the number of customers to bill.
Right.
So that is a good working relationship then, it seems, with Golden Triangle Planning and Development in terms of how the billing process is going to take place.
Just get a copy of that contract to our board attorney, and anything if you got recommendations, let us know.
Supervisor Craig, we have to bring that question, bring that answer back to you. There's a slight increase, we have to bring that back to you.
Okay, we got to take it to the system too. We got to figure out how we're going to pay for it.
What was that?
If it's an increase, we got to determine how it's going to be paid for. We may have to raise the fee.
We'll have to set that.
An increase on their monthly cost for picking up.
I've been to 13 since I've been here.
I missed the last meeting, so I don't know if they voted on that increase.
Well, I know the tipping fees are always going up. What helps combat that, us, is we grow the numbers of customers. But
now we're talking, we're not talking, we're talking about the household garbage, not the one out on
household garbage.
Yeah,
but you got to pay the tipping fee to the landfill, which they keep going up by the ton.
Our county administrator just made a commitment to make sure every supervisor get a copy of the proposed changes on the contract.
You put those in our box.
I will.
I love to read stuff like that.
Okay, I will.
have anything else, supervisors, and then an additional comment coming from other supervisors.
I'm good.
Got a couple things here. What about this deal here we got for Ben George? You want to go ahead and take care of it? To pass an order for this proclamation for Mr. Ben George? Sure. I'll make a motion.
Motion by
I'll
Supervisor
second
Trainer,
that.
second by Supervisor Montgomery. Is there any questions? No questions, all in favor?
That's to
Motion
honor
carries forward.
Ben George for his service to Oklahoma County Fire Services, and he was a charter member of the Central Oklahoma County Fire Service. And he's still going to be active, but it says it in this. Have you got a copy of that, Mr. Lowe?
I do.
Are you going to put that on our?
I will. Patrick just emailed it to me this morning, so I just made a copy to you all to go ahead and get it taken care of, and then I'll get with him and get it done. And I'll leave it on the back table that you all will need to come by and sign.
Also, got a request for a section of road to be dedicated in the honor of Mr. Corian Tate, an individual who lost his life in the line of duty, and he is a native of Oklahoma County, wanting to honor a section of Blackjack Road in his honor.
Second that.
Motion by Supervisor Trainer, second by Supervisor Montgomery, that we honor that request.
I think it's Corian Tate, but I had to get that.
Mr. Tate. Blackjack Road. Any additional questions? All in favor? Motion carries forward.
He was fresh out of police academy.
And another thing I wanted to bring before the board is that in lieu of all our building projects, I think the most urgent need is the situation at DHS, and we need to move them out of there today. And when I say today, is you go over there, you can look at it. My suggestion would be for us to get some requests for proposals for somebody to provide some temporary leasing rental space, or find a building where we can purchase and put them in. Because you say you're embarrassed by Longview Road? I mean, I'm embarrassed by the condition of DHS.
How many employees are there?
I don't know how many it is, but to give you an example of what happened, that building was probably in just as bad condition as this educational building was when Jordan Curry and myself on the board. And if it hadn't been for Katrina, they came along and destroyed that building, may have been still on the county until today. But I think we need to get on the fast track to find somewhere where we can relocate them ASAP. DHS. There's got to be somebody, Clay Richardson or somebody in town who's got some space we can rent to put them in that space. Somebody, just get somebody to present us some proposals so we can move them. That's the most urgent thing I think right now. So I'd like for us to consider that and see what kind of proposal we get back. We need to move them quick. We need to move them quick. I mean, I can imagine, man, if my wife was working over there, I couldn't get no sleep. I couldn't come home. And I thought about it. I really felt real bad. It is just
in bad.
He said pest problem. He just kind of danced around.
Yeah.
He danced around. And if any citizen has any issue with it, just go over there and let them ladies take you a little tour of the building.
Pretty rough.
It's awful.
Yeah, it's
I knew it was bad, but
y'all need somebody to take me behind the courthouse and move me, because I'm gonna be about just how upset I'm up with myself, because I'm sitting over here. You don't go, you never know. But it's a bad situation. It's bad.
That's what I was saying.
we pre-planned it a few years ago.
It's bad. So, whatever we can do.
How much space? Never mind. I'll with y'all's permission, I'll get with them.
Get with them and see what they do.
That's a motion.
Motion by Supervisor Trainer, and second by Supervisor Montgomery, that we move forward with finding a place to lease to house
To relocate.
And that's everyone in Felix Loan, everyone, that whole building.
The extension part is pretty good, but I know the DHS is the worst part. But now we may have to end up looking at, if we're going to do this major project, it may end up having to relocate everybody in the building. But I know the DHS part is just horrible. It really is embarrassing. It is horrible. So I hate to bring it up, but that's the only way you're going to do it. That's the only way you're going to fix it.
So far as the Justice Court is starting to get to that point.
They're old buildings, y'all. That's the original hospital.
Y'all better have a location for if you bring a child up there for some kind of visitation, there's not even a location for them to do that. That's how bad this is. I mean, that it's.
But credit to this board, we're looking at these situations and we're starting
problems today.
Hopefully, boards in the future, you know, won't have to deal with it. You know.
Yeah, but that's all I have.
Wouldn't have to deal with it. Got a motion and a second. All in favor? Motion carries forward. Any additional comments coming from the county business supervisor? I'm sorry, board attorney.
I would ask that we go into closed session to determine whether or not we need to go into executive session to discuss potential litigation and litigation that's ongoing, as well as, hold on, remember everything, as well as potential litigation within the TIF issue in the document.
Go in closed session. Supervisor Montgomery, motion by Supervisor Montgomery, second by, motion going into closed session. Second by Supervisor. Now, all in favor? Motion carries forward, closed session.
On the docket, did I motion a second?